divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 826, Divination in Case of Uncertainty. Looking at the direction where Bailey Xiang was fleeing, Wei Hong suddenly relaxed a lot. This battle could be said to be the most difficult battle he had encountered since entering the secret realm. Bailey Xiang was also the strongest among the cultivators of the same level that he had encountered so far. The cultivators in the late stage of foundation building were not as good as him, and could even be said to be far inferior to him. Not to mention the various second-level top-grade spiritual tools in Bailey Xiang's hands, as well as the replica of magic weapons such as the 8-gate golden light mirror, and even the treasure of the talisman, which was absolutely a killer for the foundation building cultivators. There were not many people who could compete with him in the foundation building period. If Wei Hong had not seized the opportunity of him being severely injured this time and specially laid out the powerful formation of the 6 Absolute Blue Thunder formation, it might be impossible to make Bailey Xiang hand over the Blue Spirit Bodhi fruit, especially when Wei Hong did not dare to kill him rashly. It would be difficult to really keep him. Even though he had seized the opportunity when Bailey Xiang was seriously injured, Wei Hong was forced to reveal many of his trump cards. If he had not had the Minmu substitute technique, he might have been completely killed by the talisman. Thinking of the talisman on Bailey Xiang, his heart suddenly became hot, and then he sighed secretly. What a pity. If I could really keep Bailey Xiang, although the risk is great, the reward must be extremely rich, but it's a pity that I can't keep him. Wei Hong shook his head. For the escape secret technique of Blood Shadow Escape, he currently has no way to crack it. Unless he kills or controls Bailey Xiang before he casts the spell, there is no way to stop his escape. Fortunately, he had no intention of completely killing Bailey Xiang from the beginning, so he is not disappointed now. After all, the most important Kingling Bodhi fruit for him is already in his hands, which is a real harvest. So Wei Hong immediately turned his palm and immediately put away the jade box containing the Kingling Bodhi fruit. Then he immediately made hand gestures, controlled the 6 paper figures to stop the operation of the formation, and the dark clouds in the sky dissipated instantly, and the green thunderbolts immediately disappeared into the void. Then he stretched out his hand again and collected all the spiritual tools such as the Jinitan sword. A moment later, Wei Hong quickly left the place with his flying sword. In the air, he flew at a moderate speed while thinking about the next itinerary and plan in his mind. After all, the Kingling Bodhi fruit was already in hand, but other natural treasures that could help to form the elixir had not yet appeared, so he had to think of a way. If it really doesn't work, I'll search the outer domain first. As long as I encounter valuable natural treasures, I'll pick them all up. It would be best if I could get 1 or 2 more treasures that could help to form the elixir. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart, but he couldn't make a decision immediately. However, he was not in a hurry. After flying south for a distance, he landed on the ground and found a safe and secret place temporarily. He took out 6 copper coins again to deduce and divine. As the saying goes, when you are in doubt, you should divinate. Then, the divination he got suggested that he could try to go north. North. Wei Hong frowned and thought secretly, I have already deduced and divined before. The east and west are both dangerous places. The north is okay. There's only one area that is relatively dangerous. Now that the divination shows that I can search in the north, I can try it. After some thought, he immediately decided. So after leaving the Bihang Mountains, Wei Hong immediately turned to the north and began to search along the north, preparing to find more natural treasures. 1 month later, Wei Hong was next to a stream at this time. He slowly bent down and gently picked a green spiritual grass from a stone beside the stream, and then put it directly into the storage bag, and then slowly stood up. Beside this stream, there was the corpse of a spotted giant python. The corpse of the late foundation building giant python had been skinned, and valuable monster materials such as snake gallbladder and fangs had long been collected. Wei Hong gently washed his hands in the clear stream, then looked up into the distance and said to himself, it's been a month, and I still haven't met Ding Zhu. I don't know where they are. In the past month, he has been searching in the north, and the harvest is not bad. Not only are there many second-level middle-quality spiritual medicines, but he also found a Poria Coco's flower that helps to form a pill. In addition, he also met a large number of cultivators in this month, but in the absence of conflicts of interest, he did not have a conflict with anyone, but tried to avoid others as much as possible, and then find his own things. It's just that after encountering so many people, he still hasn't seen the traces of Ling Zhu and others, which made Wei Hong mutter in his heart, fearing that Ling Zhu had encountered some danger. But when he thought that Ling Zhu was Bidang Mo's apprentice, he immediately put his mind at ease. Bidang Mo, as the head of Dang Wang Pavilion and a legend and cultivator, could guarantee that Ling Zhu would not be in any fatal danger in the secret realm, even if something slipped through his fingers. Forget it, don't think too much. If you can't find it in the outer realm, you will definitely find it in the inner realm. Wei Hong shook his head and stopped thinking about it, and prepared to continue searching in the north. But before he could move, a loud noise that resounded throughout the secret realm exploded. At the same time, there were also waves of violent spiritual power fluctuations. Boom! It was as if a thunderbolt from the blue sky struck Wei Hong's ears directly, causing his face to change immediately. He subconsciously looked in the direction of the loud noise, with a hint of horror and uneasiness in his eyes. Then, is that the direction of the inner realm? Has someone already broken into the inner realm? Wei Hong murmured solemnly, and his expression became completely solemn. The loud noise just now was obviously coming from the inner domain, but he didn't expect that someone would dare to break into the inner domain at this time. It really surprised him. Now it seems that there may be quite a few cultivators who broke into the inner domain, otherwise it would not have caused such a huge commotion, and even shocked the entire secret realm. Although Wei Hong didn't know what happened in the inner domain, he understood that now that such a huge commotion suddenly came from the inner domain, other cultivators, even if they were slow, must have noticed the changes in the inner domain. In this way, no matter what the cultivators in the outer domain are doing or where they are, they will definitely be attracted by this huge commotion and rush towards the inner domain. It seems that I should also go to the inner domain to find out. Wei Hong looked solemn, looking in the direction of the inner domain, and made up his mind. Chapter 827 Nine-Eyed Black Toad. The so-called inner domain is actually the most central area in the entire secret realm. The area of the inner domain is not too small, it is hundreds of miles wide. As for how to distinguish the inner domain from the outer domain, it is actually very simple, because there is a special layer of restrictions at the edge of the central area of the secret realm. Passing through that layer of restrictions will enter the inner domain, and outside the inner domain is the outer domain. This is the mark to distinguish the inner and outer domains. The reason why the restrictions automatically generated by that layer of the secret realm are special is that any cultivator who enters the secret realm or the monster beast in the outer domain can pass through the restrictions and enter the inner domain, but the monster beasts in the inner domain cannot pass through the inner domain to the outer domain. Although Wei Hong searched all the way to the north before, he was not far from the inner domain, only a few dozen miles away, so he could sense the movement in the inner domain so clearly. After this movement, I believe the inner domain will be very exciting, right? All kinds of cultivators gathered there, it's simply a mixed bag. Looking at the direction of the inner domain, Wei Hong sighed lightly. He could imagine that after the huge noise that shook the entire secret realm, most of the cultivators would be attracted. Then the inner realm would be in chaos, and all kinds of battles and looting would definitely emerge one after another. As long as they entered the inner realm, no cultivator could stay out of it. And such a chaotic situation was a great opportunity to fish in troubled waters. Wei Hong naturally thought of this, so he had already made a decision in his heart. He had never entered the inner realm before, mainly because he had divined that most areas in the inner realm were full of great dangers, so he felt that it was not the right time to enter the inner realm, so he kept searching for natural materials and treasures in the outer realm, waiting for the opportunity. Now, the time to enter the inner realm has obviously come. Because there are people ahead to pave the way for him, and there will be a large number of cultivators entering the inner realm together, so the dangers of the inner realm have been reduced to the lowest for him, and it is a good time to enter the inner realm. Thinking of this, Wei Hong no longer hesitated, and immediately flew up on his sword and rushed towards the inner realm. At the same time, in various places that Wei Hong could not see, a large number of cultivators were also attracted by the movement in the inner domain, and they rushed to the inner domain like a tide. In the inner domain, Ding Zhu, who had never met Wei Hong, was now following her senior sister, and together they attacked a pitch-black toad that exuded a foul smell. It was a huge toad that was 7 or 8 feet tall. Not only was the toad pitch black, but it also had 7 strange red eyes the size of a bowl on its huge body. With a pair of eyes on its head, this huge black toad actually had 9 eyes. Moreover, the black toad's body was densely covered with fist-sized poison bags. From time to time, those poison bags would break, and then streams of black and inky poison would flow out. Those poisons also exuded a foul smell that would make people change their color. If it were an ordinary person, they would die immediately after smelling it. Therefore, Dingzu and others did not dare to get too close, for fear of getting a little bit of poison. If Wei Hong was here, he would recognize it at a glance. This toad is clearly the famous 9-eyed black toad, which is famous for its terrifying venom and strange magical powers. Usually, ordinary peak foundation building cultivators dare not provoke an adult 9-eyed black toad alone. And now the 9-eyed black toad in front of Dingzu and others is not only larger than the average 9-eyed black toad, but also more terrifying. It is even several times stronger than the peak foundation building aura. At this time, there are more than 10 cultivators beside Dingzu and her senior sister. The lowest of these 10 cultivators is the middle stage of foundation building, and most of them have reached the late stage of foundation building. Only Dingzu has the lowest cultivation. The 15 or 16 of them are now frantically besieging the 9-eyed black toad below, and everyone's face is full of greed and fear. The reason for greed is that there is a huge cave behind the 9-eyed black toad. Behind the cave entrance, you can see a spiritual herb with a fiery red body and a shape like a flame, but with 7 leaves, growing on the rock wall of the cave. It is now protected by a simple shield. The huge 9-eyed black toad is blocking the entrance of the cave. In front of the 9-eyed black toad is a lake of a medium size. Obviously, the 9-eyed black toad should be the monster living around this lake, and the reason why Dingzu and others besieged the 9-eyed black toad should be for the spiritual herb in the cave. The fear is because the strength of the 9-eyed black toad is really terrifying, which makes everyone present frightened. Even more than 10 people attacked together and did not cause any damage to the 9-eyed black toad. At this time, a handsome man who was driving a yellow jade ruler suddenly shouted, "Everyone, this 9-eyed black toad has lived in the secret land for who knows how many years, and has been nourished by abundant spiritual energy all year round. Its strength is extremely terrifying. Although it has not yet broken through to the 3rd level, it is not much different from the monsters in the early 3rd level. None of us is its opponent. If we don't work together, or if you don't show some real skills, then none of us can get the dragon flame gathering spirit grass." The handsome man's words completely explained the reason why this 9-eyed black toad was so powerful, and at the same time, it also revealed the thoughts of everyone present, and the name of the spiritual grass was also revealed. The reason why this 9-eyed black toad was so powerful was that it had lived in the secret land for a long time, and the spiritual energy of the world in the secret land was extremely abundant and rich. This 9-eyed black toad had been nourished by such spiritual energy. Even if it did not deliberately absorb spiritual energy, its strength had reached an extremely terrifying level after years of slow growth. Although this 9-eyed black toad has not yet broken through to the 3rd level, it is much stronger than the cultivators at the peak of the foundation building stage. It may not be comparable to the real golden elixir cultivators at the early stage, but it is definitely an irresistible existence for the cultivators at the foundation building stage. If they had not had more than 10 people attacking together, perhaps the furious 9-eyed black toad would have already caused their cultivators to start to lose numbers. The dragon flame gathering spirit grass mentioned by the handsome man is actually a spiritual grass of the 3rd level lower grade, and such a spiritual grass is definitely a real treasure in this secret realm. Even if the dragon flame gathering spirit grass is not helpful for forming a pill, as long as it can be picked out, it can definitely be exchanged for an unimaginable amount of spiritual stones after returning to the fairy city, or handed over to the family and the master, and will definitely receive a very generous reward. In this way, after discovering the dragon flame gathering spirit grass, everyone naturally wants to get it, but because of the existence of the 9-eyed black toad, they have to join forces to fight the enemy. Chapter 828 Fishing in Troubled Waters. The atmosphere at the scene suddenly became heavy. The words spoken by the handsome man seemed to move the hearts of the other cultivators, and their faces also showed some subtle changes. After the handsome man finished speaking, he took the initiative to set an example. He sprayed a mouthful of spiritual power directly on the yellow jade ruler, which instantly turned the jade ruler into a giant ruler 3 meters long, and a layer of yellow spiritual light was attached to the surface of the giant ruler, which seemed to make the entire giant ruler extremely heavy. The next moment, the handsome man uttered the word fall, and the extremely heavy giant ruler fell hard on the top of the nine-eyed black toad's head, as if 1 foot would completely smash the nine-eyed black toad's head. However, facing this seemingly heavy giant ruler, the nine-eyed black toad did not dodge or evade, but just slightly opened its huge mouth towards the giant ruler that fell from the air, and saw a red light that was difficult to detect with the naked eye suddenly flashed. Bang! A violent, dull sound was heard, and the giant ruler that was about to fall down seemed to be hit hard by something terrifying, and was actually sent flying backwards, without any trace of the extremely heavy posture just now. The handsome man's face changed drastically. He did not expect that he had used his real strength, but it seemed a little vulnerable, and the jade ruler that he regarded as a treasure was easily broken by the nine-eyed black toad. At this time, after another man saw what happened just now, he immediately shouted loudly, "Fellow Taoist Xia is right. The strength of this nine-eyed black toad is definitely not something that a few people can easily contend with. We must not only work together, but also use real means, otherwise it is impossible to kill it. As for the dragon flame gathering spirit grass, after we solve the nine-eyed black toad, we will rely on our own abilities." The more than 10 of them did not actually discover the dragon flame gathering spirit grass together, but the person who first discovered the spiritual grass did not dare to act rashly because of the terrifying strength of the nine-eyed black toad, the guardian monster, so they gradually attracted more cultivators, so they decided to unite to solve the nine-eyed black toad first. The dragon flame gathering spirit grass is naturally what everyone wants, but the nine-eyed black toad is like a mountain in front of them, making it difficult for them to cross. If they don't work together to solve the nine-eyed black toad, none of them can get the spiritual grass. At this moment, more than a dozen monks present also figured out the key, and no longer hesitated, and took out real means to start besieging the nine-eyed black toad. For a while, all kinds of roars and explosions were much more intense than before. At the same time, in other places in the inner domain, not only Lingzhu and others were besieging the monsters together, but other monks also used their own means to fight with the monsters in the inner domain, in order to seize the real treasures of heaven and earth. It was precisely because of this that the huge noise that Wei Hong and others heard outside just now was transmitted by these monks when they were fighting with those monsters in the inner domain, so it shocked the entire secret realm. Wei Hong was very fast and soon arrived at the junction of the inner and outer domains. That special restriction was actually a layer of white light curtain. Passing through this layer of light curtain was considered entering the inner domain. But Wei Hong did not break in immediately, but stood there and thought for a moment. The next moment, not only did he not enter the inner domain, but he turned around and left, and began to search around. Soon, Wei Hong found a relatively hidden valley nearby. He was too lazy to be picky and immediately chose that valley. He first set up a magic sky formation outside the valley to completely cover the valley, and then took out 6 paper figures from the storage bag. As usual, he equipped each paper figure with a storage bag, which not only contained various talismans, but also 2 second-level medium-grade or high-grade spiritual tools, which served as the paper figures' weapons. In addition, there were at least 3 sets of formation flags. After getting ready, Wei Hong waved his hand and said, "Go." With his order, the 6 paper figures rushed out of the valley together with a whoosh. Watching the 6 paper figures leaving, Wei Hong sat cross-legged on a flat boulder in the valley, and then muttered to himself, "The inner domain is still too dangerous. Even though there are many cultivators paving the way ahead, we still can't be careless. What's more, there may be all kinds of unimaginable melees next. Even with my strength, facing all kinds of sneak attacks and sieges that are hard to defend against, I may still suffer a big loss. So this time, let the paper figures enter the inner domain on my behalf." He actually planned to let the 6 paper figures enter the inner domain on his behalf, while his real body hide outside. It must be said that only Wei Hong could come up with such a wonderful and unique plan. It would be something that other cultivators would never think of. Because he has a unique magic like paper figure art, which is an advantage that no one can match. As long as he does not enter the inner domain, no matter how dangerous it is, it has nothing to do with him, but the paper figures can be like ordinary people, whether it is picking natural treasures or robbing things, they can do the same as the real body. The most important thing is that if the 6 paper figures go out together, they can immediately set up the 6 absolute blue thunder formation when encountering a strong enemy, so that they can ensure that there is no risk of error. Under Wei Hong's control, The 6 paper figures quickly passed through the white light curtain and directly entered the inner domain. After entering the inner domain, he could sense through the paper figures that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the inner domain was much richer than that in the outer domain. If he stayed in the inner domain to practice, one day of practice would be equivalent to half a month of practice outside the secret realm. No wonder the monsters in the inner domain are so terrible. After the 6 paper figures entered the inner domain, they did not act together under Wei Hong's control, but dispersed and began to search in the inner domain. However, although they were dispersed, the 6 paper figures were not too far away from each other, but kept a distance that was not too far or too close, so that they could provide support or reunite at any time in case of an accident. At this moment, Wei Hong could clearly see through the 6 paper figures that there were monks constantly passing through the special restriction and entering the inner domain, then whizzing over their heads and quickly killing towards the more central area of the inner domain. But the 6 paper figures were not in a hurry. They began to search on the ground. As long as they encountered spiritual medicines of the 2nd grade or higher grade, they would pick them all, or if they sensed that the concentration of spiritual energy there was very abundant, they would rush over to check it out. In this way, the actions of the 6 paper figures were not conspicuous at all. Before the melee really started, they had already picked a lot of spiritual medicines. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 829, Buried, Provoked. In the inner domain. The 6 paper figures kept a certain distance from each other and moved separately. From time to time, several sword lights passed over their heads and went directly into the center of the inner domain. But Wei Hong was not in a hurry, but prepared to advance layer by layer. He had not yet understood the true situation of the inner domain, and knew nothing about what happened here. Instead of going deep into it without knowing anything, it would be better to take this opportunity to search for more natural treasures first. Before encountering natural treasures that were enough to make him excited, Wei Hong did not intend to let the paper figures conflict with anyone. Whoosh! One of the paper figures was very fast. After discovering a 2nd-level high-quality spiritual herb in front of him, he immediately flashed over, and then skillfully dug up the spiritual herb and put it into the storage bag. If no one could see through Wei Hong's paper figure technique, no one would know that these were not normal humans at all. Boom! At this time, a huge roar and explosion suddenly came from not far away. The paperman immediately looked up and saw 2 monks fighting each other, controlling each other's flying swords, or casting spells and talismans to attack each other. The paperman approached without hesitation and soon heard one of the sturdy monks roaring, "Despicable villain, hand over the Biming fruit to me, otherwise I will make you die here today." Facing the scolding of those sturdy monks, another tall and thin man in a black robe smiled coldly and said, "Okay, if you have the ability, just use it. I want to see if you can really let me die here." The black-robed man was not afraid, but provoked again and again. The sturdy monk was furious when he heard this, and his eyes almost spit fire. This person had originally found a 2nd-grade Biming fruit, and when he was happy, he didn't expect that a sneaky black-robed monk followed him. The black-robed monk took advantage of the strong monk's distraction and first attacked the strong monk, and then immediately seized the Biming fruit and wanted to escape immediately. The strong monk naturally couldn't let him go, so they fought each other. After hearing the 3 words Biming fruit, the paperman controlled by Wei Hong decisively moved towards the 2 monks in front. At the same time, there were 5 other papermen in other directions who were also quickly surrounding them. The strong monk and the black-robed monk didn't know that in the short time they were cursing each other, 6 papermen had quietly approached, and at the same time, they each held a few formation flags in their hands. When they found out, the 6 papermen had already rushed towards them quickly. "Stop, what do you mean, fellow Taoists? Wait a minute, fellow Taoists, what does this have to do with you?" When the sturdy monk and the black-robed monk found that the 6 paper figures had surrounded them, their faces changed drastically, and they stopped and shouted at the paper figures at the same time. But the 6 paper figures seemed to have heard nothing, and their actions were extremely fast. They all said nothing, and when they approached the sturdy monk and the 2 monks within 50 feet, they raised their hands, and the formation flags in their hands shot out, and in the blink of an eye, All the formation flags were nailed into the specific position. The sturdy monk and the black-robed monk had no time to react at this time, and even their eyes were filled with a trace of confusion. The next moment, in their horrified eyes, a green light curtain instantly rose up and directly enveloped the sturdy monk and the black-robed monk, and the speed was simply amazing. "Stop, who are you? Why are you attacking me?" The sturdy monk's face turned pale instantly. He shouted at the paper man with all his might, but his eyes were full of panic and horror, as if he had never expected to encounter such a thing. The black-robed monk shouted even more panicked, "Hey, hey, hey, did you guys misunderstand something? I have no grudges against you. I hope you guys can leave me alone. I will be very grateful." Both the sturdy monk and the black-robed monk could see that the 6 people around them were definitely not here with good intentions. But the 6 papermen didn't care how the 2 monks in the formation yelled and scolded, or begged for mercy. After they set up the 6 absolute blue thunder formation, they immediately urged the spiritual power in their bodies to activate the formation. Buzz! A large dark cloud began to gather above the heads of the sturdy monk and the 2 monks. The sturdy monk and the black-robed monk looked at each other solemnly, and the next moment they attacked the blue light curtain without hesitation. They had already seen that the 6 opponents acted in unison and trapped them with a formation. If they did not break the formation, it would be a pipe dream to escape. Therefore, there was no need to say anything more. The sturdy monk and the black-robed monk chose to attack in unison. Unfortunately, the 6 absolute blue lightning formation was not something they could break. Whether it was the flying sword of the sturdy monk, or the flying knife of the black-robed monk, or the talismans they shot out, they could not have any effect on the blue light curtain, and they did not even shake it a bit. But at this time, the dark clouds above their heads had completely condensed into shape, and there were thick blue lightning flashing in the dark clouds, and bursts of lightning and thunder sounded from time to time. The momentum was very huge, and it also exuded a terrifying aura that was terrifying. "Stop, fellow Taoists, stop quickly. I'll give you the Biming fruit. Please let me live." The black-robed monk was already pale with fear. He immediately begged for mercy and gave away the Biming fruit he had just obtained as a reward. He was not stupid at all. He knew that the 2 of them were surrounded because of the Biming fruit. Unfortunately, he didn't know that the 6 paper figures couldn't speak at all. Boom! The next moment, before the 2 monks could continue to speak, waves of blue thunder began to fall suddenly. No matter where the sturdy monk and the black-robed monk hid, they couldn't avoid the waves of thunder. Kill! The sturdy monk obviously knew that it was useless to say more, so it was better to give it a try. Seeing this, the black-robed monk could only make a desperate move with a pale face, but he had already given up any hope. As expected, as the blue thunder struck down, the layers of shields laid by the sturdy monk and the black-robed monk were like thin paper, and were directly torn apart by the blue thunders, leaving both of them exposed to the thunder. Boom! After a burst of thunder and lightning, accompanied by 2 extremely shrill screams, the formation soon returned to calm. When the 2 monks were completely silent, the dark clouds in the sky slowly dissipated. The next moment, the formation was directly removed. A paperman quickly came to the front of the 2 corpses, collected all the things on the 2 corpses and the storage bags, and immediately turned around and left. Chapter 830 Inner Domain, a battlefield of flesh and blood. 3 days later. With all kinds of huge movements frequently heard, thousands of cultivators who entered the secret realm also gradually gathered in the inner domain within these 3 days. At this moment, at least more than 90% of the cultivators gathered in the inner domain. No matter where they were in the secret realm, with these 3 days, most of them had already rushed to the inner domain. Compared with other cultivators, Wei Hong sat firmly in the valley outside the inner domain. He didn't need to enter the inner domain to compete with other cultivators for natural materials and treasures, nor did he need to put his body in danger, thus minimizing the risk, but his gains did not decrease at all. It was just because the 6 paper figures he sent out were more efficient in looting natural materials and treasures than he was alone. Sure enough, when most of the cultivators gathered in the inner domain, it would become a battlefield of flesh and blood, and people would die every moment for various reasons. Wei Hong, who was sitting firmly in the valley, couldn't help but sigh at this time, and his expression became much more solemn. Because at this stage, especially under the attraction of a large number of natural treasures in the inner domain, hundreds of thousands of foundation-building monks have long been red-eyed. They constantly compete for various natural treasures and constantly engage in various fights. At the same time, many monks have gathered a large number of helpers to hunt down those terrible monsters that have lived in the inner domain for who knows how many years. They are not only for the materials on those monsters, but also for the natural treasures guarded by those monsters. In short, all the rare things in the inner domain have been looted unimaginably. So at this moment, the inner domain, within a radius of 100 miles, has already become a huge and extremely chaotic battlefield. In this battlefield, people are fighting and killing everywhere, or frantically snatching various natural treasures, and even some are relying on their powerful cultivation to slaughter at will. In short, the inner domain is no longer a word that can be described as chaos. However, for the 6 paper figures controlled by Wei Hong, this huge and chaotic battlefield seems to be an ocean full of treasures. The 6 paper figures are like fish in water here. Not only do they not feel uncomfortable at all, but they are more adapted to this situation of taking advantage of the chaos. Under Wei Hong's control, the 6 paper figures no longer acted separately, but gathered together to act together, running around in this huge chaotic battlefield. As long as they saw complete corpses, they would collect them all. These could be regarded as excellent objects for refining. Even if the corpse storage bag could no longer hold so many corpses, he still chose to place the corpses in a remote and hidden location, waiting for subsequent processing. In addition to the corpses, as long as the 6 paper figures saw or heard that there were good things, or encountered other monks fighting for rare treasures, they would approach them immediately like cats smelling blood. As long as they found a small melee group of no more than 6 people, or those monks whose cultivation was not too high, the 6 paper figures would immediately set up a formation to trap all those targets, and then use all means to directly use thunder to kill them all. In this way, the harvest of the 6 paper figures can be imagined. With a formation as a support and various talismans, the 6 paper figures were extremely difficult to provoke in this chaotic battlefield. Moreover, the area within 100 miles had become a battlefield, and the 6 paper figures were not very conspicuous in the entire battlefield. Under such circumstances, Wei Hong controlled the 6 paper figures to continuously seize a large number of natural treasures, along with various corpses and things from other cultivators, all of which became his spoils of war. During this period, he even seized 2 more spiritual materials that were helpful for forming a pill, namely the black phoenix flower and the exquisite ginseng. In this way, Wei Hong's chance of forming a pill increased again, which made him extremely happy, and he began to plunder more frantically. Not to mention other spoils of war, as long as he could return to the fairy city, the spiritual flowers and herbs he obtained from the inner domain alone were enough to exchange for a large amount of extremely rich spiritual stones. This alone was enough to make Wei Hong feel very satisfied. Not bad, it's really easier to fish in troubled waters. If it weren't so chaotic, how could I have seized so many natural treasures? Wei Hong laughed happily, but he didn't have to take any risks. If other cultivators knew about this, they might kill him at all costs. Fortunately, no one knew about it, and Wei Hong could still continue to plunder and seize in this huge and chaotic battlefield. Of course, he also replaced the paper figures several times during this period. After all, once the spiritual power stored in those paper figures is used up, it can no longer be replenished by itself, so the only way is to replace the paper figures. Fortunately, Wei Hong always carries a large number of paper figures on his body, so he doesn't have to worry about the consumption of paper figures. In addition, there is the consumption of talismans. Even if there is a formation as a support, the consumption of talismans is still inevitable. Therefore, after fighting again and again, the various talismans stored in Wei Hong have been consumed by more than half. For now, there is no need to worry about the consumption, but he dare not guarantee how long the remaining talismans can last. After all, for paper figures, talismans are definitely the most commonly used means of attack. Fortunately, he took the time to casually check a few storage bags and found some other talismans. This also alleviated the problem of talisman consumption, so that the paper figures no longer needed to use talismans sparingly. In this way, the 6 paper figures were hard to find opponents on the battlefield. Of course, Wei Hong had no intention of provoking those terrible monsters that had survived in the inner domain for who knows how many years. Even if the treasures guarded by those monsters were precious, they were not enough to tempt him. He just snatched treasures from other cultivators in a targeted manner, because those monsters were too terrible. Although they had not yet reached the giant stage, They were not something that the peak foundation building cultivators could contend with. He could not gather more than 10 or 20 people to attack together like other cultivators. Especially the day before, he saw with his own eyes through the paper figurines that a group of monks gathered to hunt down a fierce black gold ironthorn crocodile, but they were slaughtered crazily by the black gold ironthorn crocodile. Although nearly 20 monks finally succeeded in killing the black gold ironthorn crocodile, more than 10 monks from their group died. The result of the battle was extremely tragic. It was also because of the result of that battle that Wei Hong completely extinguished the idea of troubling those monsters. Let others hunt the monsters. My main purpose is to search for natural treasures. What's more, those monks have taken the treasures. Can't I just snatch them from them? With this idea, Wei Hong sat in the valley and continued to control the 6 paper figurines to move. Chapter 831 Rare Treasure. 3 days later. On this day, Wei Hong still controlled the 6 paper figures to secretly look for opportunities on the battlefield. After this period of fighting, his harvest became more and more abundant. However, Wei Hong noticed something wrong in the past 2 days. The battles that broke out in this battlefield became more and more fierce, and the various fights became more and more frequent. I don't know if those monks were bloodthirsty or too excited. Especially the deeper into the center of the inner domain, the more frequent and fierce the various battles became. Wei Hong was surprised, and subconsciously followed and slowly went deeper into the central area, wanting to find out what happened. Even his body followed into the inner domain, but he still carefully hid his whereabouts. In order to keep a certain distance from the paper figures when entering the inner domain, he still used the formation to cover his breath. He controlled the 6 paper figures and no longer took action at this time. Instead, he was extremely cautious and slowly moved towards the depths of the inner domain. After all, the movement of taking action was too loud, and he just wanted to find out what happened in the inner domain. During this period, he had not gone deep into the inner domain. He just rushed back and forth on the battlefield to plunder various natural treasures and avoid the terrifying monsters in the depths of the inner domain. Wei Hong had divined before, and the hexagram showed that the depths of the inner domain were extremely dangerous, and there were also very terrifying monsters. This was also the reason why he had never gone deep into it. But now, not only did most of the surviving cultivators slowly enter the depths of the inner domain, but he also noticed something wrong. He always felt that something had happened, so he had to go deep into it to see. Could it be that some rare treasure appeared in the depths of the inner domain? Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart, and his heart became hot. If there really was some rare treasure in the depths of the inner domain, he would not miss it no matter what. But he never thought that when he came to the depths of the inner domain, he saw a more crazy and fierce melee. He even felt that most of the surviving cultivators in the secret realm seemed to be concentrated here. Boom. Swish. Swish. Spiritual weapons were flying around in the air, talismans were constantly being activated, and various spells were cast one after another, making huge rumbling sounds in the air, which seemed very fierce. The 6 paper figures were almost stunned. They didn't expect that an unimaginable melee would break out on the depths of the inner domain at this time. The reason why it was called a melee was that at this moment, everyone in the battlefield was fighting alone. There was no so-called joint attack against the enemy. Everyone even regarded others as enemies. Because in the center of the melee among all the cultivators, a green lotus appeared that attracted everyone's attention. Wei Hong saw through the paper figure that in the depths of the inner domain, there was actually a huge lake with an area of several miles wide. The lake water was not clear. It was different from normal lake water. It seemed to be silvery white, and there was a faint white mist on the surface of the lake. In the center of this lake, there was a small island. The area of the island was not large, and the scenery on the island was also very simple. It could be seen clearly at a glance. In the center of the island, there was a deep pool of about 10 feet in size. No one knew where the pool led to. The water in the pool was the same silvery white as the lake outside, and even looked darker. The surface of the pool was emitting a thick white mist. In the deep pool, a white jade pillar rose up at this time. On the top of the white jade pillar, a palm-sized green lotus was held up in the air. The green lotus had 5 leaves in total, and the 5 leaves formed an exquisite lotus platform. On the upper layer of the lotus platform, there were 9 green petals, and there seemed to be a few drops of dew on the petals. Moreover, the surface of the 9 petals was full of mysterious and complex patterns. Even if Wei Hong only took a glance at it, he felt that his mind seemed to be attracted to it. In the center, surrounded by the 9 petals, there was a green lotus pod, which seemed to be pregnant with a few lotus seeds, but the paper man was too far away and could not see more clearly. At this time, there was a rainbow of 7 colors floating in the sky above the green lotus, like a curved mini rainbow bridge, which swayed slightly with a breeze and emitted a colorful halo. With just one look, Wei Hong was very sure that the green lotus was definitely an extremely rare treasure, and it might even be the most precious thing in the entire Xingyin secret realm. He had already seen that the reason why the hundreds of cultivators gathered here were fighting each other and even set off an unimaginable melee was because of the green lotus that suddenly appeared. Anyone could see the preciousness of the green lotus, and this green lotus was growing in the deepest part of this inner domain. Even if they could not recognize the origin of the green lotus, it did not prevent the cultivators from fighting for it. At this time, all the cultivators wanted to rush to the side of the deep pool and pick the green lotus. But everyone wanted to achieve something, but no one could do it, just because everyone was madly crowding there, but at the same time they were on guard against other monks. As long as they saw a monk approaching the island, they would attack without hesitation to stop him. In this way, no one dared to approach the island rashly under the attack of hundreds of monks. After all, there was only one green lotus, so naturally everyone wanted to get it, but at the same time they absolutely did not want to see others get it, so they all wanted to snatch it like crazy. Faced with such a fierce and chaotic battlefield, even Wei Hong did not dare to enter rashly. So he immediately controlled the 6 paper figures to quietly disperse, and each of them went around the battlefield to observe the situation. At this time, in the center of the battlefield closest to the island, a handsome man in a golden brocade robe suddenly shouted angrily, "Huang Fuyun, if you don't get out of the way, don't blame me for being rude." The object of this handsome man's anger was the middle-aged man opposite him, who looked a little sinister. This man was the uncle of Huang Fuming, who was killed by Wei Hong before, and he was also a member of the Huangfu family who had been in seclusion before to break through to the Jinden stage. It was just that Wei Hong didn't know this, but after hearing the 3 words Huang Fuyun, the 6 paper figures all stopped subconsciously, and then looked at the sinister middle-aged man in unison. Huang Fuyun? Someone from the Huangfu family. Wei Hong's real body couldn't help but whisper at this time. At the same time, a strong murderous intent subconsciously rose in his heart. It was only because of the blood curse in his body that he couldn't feel at ease until now. However, Huang Fuyun didn't know that he had been targeted by Wei Hong. While dodging a flying sword, he smiled coldly, "Get out of the way? Long Yan, even if you are the last disciple of Kangshan's Henren, don't even think about making me retreat half a step. You must know that it is a rare pure spirit green lotus. Whoever blocks me today will be my Huang Fuyun's mortal enemy." Chapter 832 Pure Spirit Green Lotus. When Huang Fuyun shouted the last sentence, even the chaotic battlefield was silent for a moment. These 4 words were like a thunderbolt that instantly exploded in the hearts of all the cultivators. Pure Spirit Green Lotus? Exclamation mark. All the cultivators present were stunned for a moment, and then it was like a meteorite falling on the lake, instantly making all the cultivators explode, and the scene immediately set off an uproar. What? Pure Spirit Green Lotus? Huang Fuyun, you said that is the legendary Pure Spirit Green Lotus. No, it's impossible. How could such a legendary treasure appear here? Haha, Pure Spirit Green Lotus? It turned out to be the legendary Pure Spirit Green Lotus? This time I really came to the right place, haha. I didn't expect that the treasure that this secret realm has nurtured for who knows how many years would be the Pure Spirit Green Lotus? Haha. When all the cultivators on the scene learned the name and origin of the green lotus, they immediately exclaimed in ecstasy, or were full of disbelief, or were extremely excited. In short, they all fell into a state of madness. They all looked at the pure spirit green lotus with red eyes. Their eyes were full of greed and desire. Some of these monks might have guessed the origin of the green lotus beforehand, but they were not sure in their hearts. After they got the confirmed news from Huang Fuyun, they naturally went crazy. The next moment, all the monks present rushed towards the pure spirit green lotus in tacit understanding, all wanting to take the green lotus into their pockets and turn it into treasure that belonged only to them. At this moment, the eyes of these monks could no longer accommodate anything except the pure spirit green lotus. A melee that was far more violent and intense than before broke out at this moment. It seemed that all the monks had taken out their best means, and while desperately rushing forward, They also tried their best to block the approach of other monks. Kangxin Henren's close disciple Long Yan was furious. First, he was shocked that Huang Fuyun had directly revealed the origin of the pure spirit green lotus, letting everyone present know the preciousness of this green lotus, which greatly increased the difficulty of seizing the green lotus. After all, facing hundreds of foundation-building cultivators at the same time, even a giant cultivator might not be able to do it. Second, he was furious that Huang Fuyun was not afraid of his identity at all, which made Long Yan's anger soar to the sky. Kill, since you want to die here, then I will fulfill your wish. In a rage, Long Yan immediately rushed towards Huang Fuyun. At this moment, the fight around the island in the center of the lake became completely crazy. The 6 paper figures who stayed outside the battlefield also had their hearts pounding when they heard the 4 words pure spirit green lotus. Wei Hong in the distance was even more ecstatic. Haha, pure spirit green lotus? It's a treasure that even giant cultivators are crazy about. Wei Hong was ecstatic, and his eyes shot out a terrifying light. He never thought that a natural treasure like the pure spirit green lotus would appear in the depths of this inner domain. The so-called pure spirit green lotus can't even be called a treasure, but a legendary divine object, which is definitely hard to find in the entire world of cultivation. Because the pure spirit green lotus has only one effect, that is, to purify spiritual power and improve the quality of the golden elixir, and it can improve several qualities. It is definitely a rare divine object that cannot be found no matter how many spiritual stones are spent. You know, the golden elixir of the golden elixir stage cultivators is the same as the foundation building stage cultivators. The golden elixir they form is also divided into 9 grades, and the gap between the lower 3 grades of golden elixir and the upper 3 grades of golden elixir is like a chasm, which is very difficult to cross. In short, if you want to condense the nascent soul, if you don't have the quality of the upper 3 grades of golden elixir, you can definitely forget it. There are almost no cultivators in the entire world of cultivation who break through to the nascent soul stage with the lower 3 grades of golden elixir. But the pure spirit green lotus that appeared now has the terrifying effect of improving the quality of the golden elixir by several levels. Such a divine object, let alone the foundation building cultivators like Wei Hong who want to condense the golden elixir, even if there are golden elixir stage cultivators present, they will definitely use all means to madly snatch it. As long as he can seize the green lotus and wait until Wei Hong condenses the golden elixir and then chooses an opportunity to take it, the quality of his golden elixir may reach the highest level, and the probability of breaking through the nascent soul stage in the future will also be greatly improved. When he thought of this, Wei Hong stood up suddenly. Fortunately, I followed in this time, otherwise I might have missed this kind of divine object that is rare in 1,000 years. Wei Hong's face was full of excitement, and he immediately wanted to leave this place to participate in the fight for the green lotus. But he stopped immediately, and the excitement on his face slowly turned into a trace of solemnity. No, there are at least 300 or 400 foundation building cultivators gathered there, and there are also the close disciples of Kangxin Henren and people from the Huangfu family. Both of them are at the peak of foundation building. With my strength, even if I force myself to join in, I'm afraid I won't get any good results. I'm afraid it's difficult to snatch the pure spirit green lotus. Thinking of this problem, Wei Hong immediately stood there and pondered. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't withstand the siege of hundreds of cultivators at the same time. Once he got the pure spirit green lotus, the other cultivators would naturally not let him go. Instead, they would regard him as a mortal enemy and attack him together. Therefore, he must not rashly rush into the melee. After a moment, Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up. I got it, I almost forgot. I should tell a fortune when I'm in doubt. With Liren Dongwishu in hand, he was not afraid of not being able to calculate the right time to enter the field. So Wei Hong immediately took out 6 copper coins, and then put his hands together with a solemn expression and held the 6 copper coins in the middle. The next moment, he muttered a spell softly, opened his hands at the same time and threw 6 copper coins upwards. Pa! The 6 copper coins quickly fell to the ground and scattered into a strange hexagram. Wei Hong looked down at the ground and immediately understood the meaning of the hexagram. Northeast corner. The most favorable position for me to attack is in the northeast corner. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows slightly, but he relaxed a lot. Before he divined, he had already thought about the best position to seize the pure spirit green lotus this time, and the hexagram showed the northeast corner. This means that he only needs to go to the northeast corner and wait quietly, and he will find the most suitable time to attack. Thinking of this, Wei Hong immediately put away the 6 copper coins, and then turned around and left without any hesitation. Because he was very confident in the hexagram he divined, it would definitely not be wrong, otherwise he would not have been able to harvest so many spoils before, all of which were divined by Liren Dong Wishu. After putting away the formation set up outside, Wei Hong recognized the direction, restrained his own aura, and then drove the flying sword towards the depths of the inner domain. This time, the pure spirit green lotus must not fall into the hands of others, and no one can stop me. Chapter 833 Threat, Identity. Deep in the inner domain. A small island in the middle of the lake. After Huang Fuyun revealed the origin of the green lotus, all the cultivators present began to fight for it frantically. Get out of here, my young master. Whoever dares to compete with me will be tortured to death when I return to the immortal city. Long Yan roared with anger, and the magic in his hand was cast, turning into an extremely hot blue dragon, and immediately roared and swept towards the cultivators who wanted to approach the island. As the last disciple of Kangshin's Henren, Long Yan's strength is naturally extremely terrifying. It is difficult to find someone in the same level who can fight against him. Although he is still in the foundation building stage, everyone knows that Long Yan's promotion to the Golden Elixir stage is definitely a foregone conclusion. Therefore, what he said is not just a threat, but something that can be done. After all, no matter who seizes the pure spirit green lotus, they will eventually return to Kangshin Immortal City. If it was in the past, or if it was other natural treasures, the cultivators present might really give Long Yan a face, or they might choose to give in under his threat. But what appeared in front of them at this time was a divine object that could improve the quality of the golden elixir. Facing such a divine object, let alone Long Yan was only the last disciple of Kangshin's Henren, even if a real golden elixir cultivator appeared here, they would not give in at all. Moreover, once you leave this secret realm, it is absolutely impossible to obtain a divine object like the pure spirit green lotus. In this case, who would care about Long Yan's identity? Huang Fuyun dodged the scorching blue dragon while sneer, haha, brother Long, you want to bully others, right? In this secret realm, everyone is equal, and the natural treasures belong to those with virtue. Are we going to give up the fight just because of a word from you, Long Yan? What a joke. Swish. Before he finished speaking, Huang Fuyun controlled a flying sword and stabbed towards Long Yan. At the same time, he waved his hand and threw out 3 or 4 talismans. His figure flashed and he wanted to get close to the deep pool on the island. However, too many monks had gathered around at this time. Seeing that Huang Fuyun wanted to get close to the deep pool, more than 10 flying swords and more than 20 spells immediately bombarded him. Long Yan even stretched out his hand and a yellow seal swelled up in the wind, turned into a size of several feet, and smashed down towards Huang Fuyun. Damn it! Huang Fuyun cursed with a ferocious face, but he still didn't dare to resist the attacks of so many monks and forcibly take the treasure, so he could only retreat temporarily with helplessness to avoid those attacks. Seeing Huang Fuyun retreat temporarily, Long Yan was overjoyed. He pinched his hands and pointed suddenly, and the yellow seal that had not yet really fallen down bombarded the monks next to him. At the same time, Long Yan also took out a green shield from the storage bag. After offering the shield, he protected himself firmly, and then flew towards the deep pool on the island. Stop him quickly, and never let him get the pure spirit green lotus. Huang Fuyun roared with a ferocious face. He stretched out his hand, and a 5-foot-long bow appeared in his hand, and at the same time, a silver-white sharp arrow appeared. Huang Fuyun pulled the bow hard, and the silver-white sharp arrow began to emit a terrible aura, and the sharp arrow locked onto Long Yan's figure, and shot out immediately after a breath. Whoosh! The silver-white sharp arrow immediately turned into terrifying white light and flashed away. At this time, the yellow seal controlled by Long Yan also smashed down towards the surrounding monks, and the momentum was very terrifying. Faced with a bombardment of such a behemoth, naturally no monk would dare to resist it, and they didn't want to try the taste of being hit, so they all dispersed. Long Yan suddenly felt a chill all over his body at this moment, and when he turned his head, he saw the sharp arrow shot by Huang Fuyun. The white sky-breaking bow. This thing is in your hand. Long Yan was shocked, and immediately put his shield behind him. At the same time, he took out an emerald jade ruai and shook it gently, and a layer of emerald shield covered it. The next moment, the silver-white sharp arrow had already broken through the air. Puff! The green shield shone brightly, and at this moment it became extremely hard. However, under the sharp bombardment of the silver-white sharp arrow, the green shield only supported for less than a breath before a fist-sized gap was suddenly shot out. The silver-white sharp arrow continued to shoot. Puff! The green shield was even stronger, and it blocked for 3 breaths before it was broken. Long Yan naturally would not be unresponsive. Taking advantage of the gap between the 2 defenses being broken, he directly withdrew and retreated, and at the same time threw the jade ruai in his hand directly out. Ling! With a loud thud, the emerald green Yu Ruai was knocked back. The silver-white arrow was stopped by Yu Ruai, and then Long Yan chopped it off with his flying sword. However, Huang Fuyun had already taken advantage of the time when Long Yan was blocking the arrow and quickly approached the deep pool on the island. In order to avoid being besieged by everyone like before, Huang Fuyun approached the deep pool on the island while opening the Bai Kangbo Yanbo, using his spiritual power to transform into sharp arrows, and shot a large number of sharp arrows in all directions. In addition, Long Yan had bombarded with the yellow seal for a while before. At this time, facing a large number of sharp arrows that did not distinguish between enemies and friends, the faces of the monks around changed, but they did not dare to be careless. They could only use various means, or activate shields, or cast spells, or dodge back and forth. In short, they were all a little flustered by Huang Fuyun's move. In this way, the number of attacks on Huang Fuyun was reduced by half. Huang Fuyun was overjoyed. He decisively slapped a jade talisman on his body, activated a layer of shield, and rushed towards the pure spirit green lotus. But Long Yan, who was standing by, would not let him do as he wished. He grabbed and waved, and the yellow seal, which was about 10 feet long, suddenly appeared above Huang Fuyun's head, and then fell down with a bang. Then Long Yan took out more than 10 talismans and threw them directly, and also rushed over. At this time, Long Yan's face was full of resentment, and his eyes were full of rage. Obviously, he was extremely angry about Huang Fuyun's sneak attack on him with a Bai Kangbo Tiongbo. If it weren't for his quick reaction and the defensive spiritual weapon like Yu Ruai on his body, he might have been seriously injured. When he thought of this, and saw that Huang Fuyun was very close to the pure spirit green lotus, Long Yan's eyes were full of hatred, and he had the intention to kill in his heart. Huang Fuyun was less than 10 feet away from the pure spirit green lotus, but facing the huge seal that was smashing down from the sky above his head, he did not dare to be careless. After all, Long Yan was the last disciple of Kangshin's Henren, and his identity and status were much higher than his, so most of the spiritual tools that Long Yan carried were second-level top-grade spiritual tools. The power and momentum of the huge seal should not be underestimated. Chapter 834 Kyankan Tower. Boom! A huge sound rang out. Huang Fuyun was shocked by the huge seal and retreated repeatedly. His face turned pale for a moment. However, the shield formed by the jade talisman was not broken and looked a little shaky. Therefore, Huang Fuyun's momentum to rush forward was also blocked, which made him extremely angry. Long Yan, do you really want to fight me to the death? Huang Fuyun roared at Long Yan with a gloomy face, his expression full of shock and anger. Originally, he was quite disappointed that he failed to successfully break through to the golden core stage in one go. In addition, his nephew and descendant Huang Fuming also suffered from the poisonous hand, which made Huang Fuyun's mood extremely bad. Now he wanted to compete for this pure spirit green lotus but was blocked by Long Yan, which also made Huang Fuyun's anger completely exploded. However, Long Yan sneered with disdain on his face, "Fight to the death? Old Huang Fu, are you worthy? You were the one who stopped me from taking the treasure first. If you don't know what's good for you, I will make you look good after returning to the Immortal City." Okay. Huang Fuyun sneered angrily, and immediately said with a fierce face, "In this case, I don't have to hold back on you." Now Long Yan is his biggest opponent in seizing the pure spirit green lotus. As long as Long Yan is solved, he believes that the pure spirit green lotus will definitely be his, so Huang Fuyun has already made up his mind. Especially Long Yan's high-handed attitude, he suddenly wanted to kill him. So Huang Fuyun immediately took out a palm-sized talisman from the storage bag, and a small flying knife was sealed on the talisman. This talisman is obviously an extremely precious talisman treasure. Seeing Huang Fuyun take out the treasure talisman, Long Yan sneered and said, "Talisman, right? Do you think I don't have one? Today, I will show you that there is a huge difference between talismans." After that, Long Yan immediately took out a golden talisman from his storage bag. The talisman in his hand was obviously much better than the one in Huang Fuyun's hand. There was a mini tower sealed on the golden talisman. Qianqin Tower? The lord of the city is willing to give this treasure. After seeing the talisman in Long Yan's hand, Huang Fuyun's face changed instantly and he exclaimed. It was because he knew very well that the magic weapon aura sealed in the talisman was obviously from the famous Qianqin Tower, and the Qianqin Tower was the life magic weapon of Lei Ling, the lord of Kangshan Fairy City, and Huang Fuyun would never make a mistake. Lei Ling is the eldest disciple of Kangshan's Henren, and also the disciple most valued by Kangshan's Henren. His strength has already reached the peak of Jiandan, and he has been in charge of Kangshan Xianchang for more than 100 years. In the minds of major families and the majority of independent cultivators, the prestige and strength of City Lord Lei Ling are not weaker than ordinary Yuanying early cultivators, and he is even more intimidating than Kangshan's Henren, who has been in seclusion for many years and never shows up. And Long Yan laughed out loud and said, "Ha ha, Huang Fu old dog, are you confused? The City Lord is my senior brother. In order to ensure that my trip goes smoothly, what does it mean to give me a talisman?" After that, Long Yan was too lazy to talk nonsense with Huang Fuyun, and directly offered the talisman in his hand, and the spiritual power in his body surged out crazily. The next moment, a 3-meter-high octagonal tower appeared in the air in an instant. This octagonal tower is 5 stories high, with 6 sides and 8 corners. The 8 eaves of each floor are hung with bronze mirrors, bronze bells and other objects. It looks not only extremely exquisite, but also exudes a very terrifying aura. Especially when this Qianqin Tower became 3 meters high, it became a huge monster. Boom! Under Long Yan's control, the Qianqin Tower condensed and pressed down towards Huang Fuyun. At this moment, under the cover of the huge Qianqin Tower, it seemed that even the space within 3 meters around Huang Fuyun was completely fixed. Huang Fuyun felt as if he was pressed down by a huge force and couldn't even move. Ah! Huang Fuyun roared in shock and anger, barely summoning a little strength to sacrifice the talisman in his hand. Buzz! A thick back-chopping knife that was dark in color but with a hint of blood condensed out in an instant, and the next moment it slashed from bottom to top with a surging momentum. When this dark chopping knife condensed, Huang Fuyun realized that the huge force pressing on him had dissipated. It is worthy of being the life-saving magic weapon of a peak Jiandan cultivator, it is so terrifying. Huang Fuyun looked up at the sky with lingering fear, and his heart became a little heavy. Up to now, both of them have played their trump cards, but at present, Long Yan has a considerable advantage, especially with the Qianqin Tower talisman in his hand, which makes him almost invincible. As expected, one is a giant tower falling from above, and the other is a flying knife slashing from below. No matter in size or momentum, the Qianqin Tower is more terrifying than the dark flying knife. Boom! The two collided fiercely, and immediately there was a loud noise. The aftermath of the collision of the two talismans made the surrounding cultivators dare not approach rashly. At this moment, the strength displayed by Long Yan and Huang Fuyun has far exceeded that of other foundation-building cultivators, especially the appearance of the two talismans, and the scope and aftermath of the battle are so amazing that even if the surrounding cultivators are unwilling, they dare not get close to them, and can only watch Long Yan and Huang Fuyun fighting each other. Bang! The dark flying knife about 10 feet long was directly smashed away by the huge Qianqin Tower. Huang Fuyun's face changed drastically, and he quickly flew back. Swish! The next moment, the Qianqin Tower fell directly. If Huang Fuyun had not dodged quickly, he might have been smashed into a meat pie at this moment. Huang Fu old dog, if you don't get out of the way, I will bury you here today. Long Yan was in a dominant position and locked onto Huang Fuyun with his spiritual consciousness. Huang Fuyun's face was uncertain, but he was extremely unwilling in his heart. When Long Yan saw that Huang Fuyun had fallen silent and had retreated 10 feet away, he immediately smiled contemptuously, and then walked towards the pure green lotus step by step. However, even as he slowly approached the pure spirit green lotus, he was always on guard against Huang Fuyun. The huge Qianqin Tower stood behind him, creating a great deterrent. Huang Fuyun's eyes flickered, and his face was extremely gloomy. At this time, he did not move at all, and just watched Long Yan approach the pure spirit green lotus. However, neither of them knew that at this time, in the northeast corner of the deep pool, there was a figure lurking. The figure lay motionless at the bottom of the water, and his aura was tightly restrained, just like a stone. Even Long Yan and Huang Fuyun did not notice anything unusual. At this time, Long Yan had slowly walked to the side of the deep pool. Chapter 835 Fishing in Troubled Waters. The island in the center of the lake. At the edge of the island, a paper man was lying motionless on the bottom of the water. After he divined that the northeast corner was the best position to attack, he quickly and quietly touched the edge of the battlefield. Since there were hundreds of cultivators gathered here, not only fighting on their own, but also with great momentum, Wei Hong's appearance did not attract anyone's attention at all. Moreover, he restrained his breath, and no one noticed his existence without taking action. Wei Hong slowly touched the northeast direction, and took advantage of the opportunity when the spiritual power on the scene fluctuated violently to quietly set up a small formation to hide his breath and figure, so as to completely hide himself, so that he could observe the battle situation. After he hid in the formation, he immediately controlled a paper man to sneak into the water, then slowly approached the island from the water, and lurked at the designated location. Wei Hong not only used the Lingayan talisman on the paper man, but also took out more than 20 self-destructing talismans and gave them to the paper man. This was to prevent Long Yan and Huang Fuyun from blocking him after getting the pure spirit green lotus. Those self-destructing talismans were prepared for them. As for why he did not hide in person but sent a paper man, there are two main reasons. One is that he has learned about Huang Fuyun's identity and is afraid that if he gets too close, Huang Fuyun will detect his existence through the blood curse. The second reason is that it is the center of the battlefield and the most dangerous place. Especially after snatching the pure spirit green lotus, no matter who it is, they will bear the anger of Long Yan and Huang Fuyun. Only by withstanding the wave of offensive intercepted by the two of them can the pure spirit green lotus be transferred out. Therefore, it is safest to let the paper man take this risk. At this time, because of the terrifying momentum of the fight between Long Yan and Huang Fuyun, the monks around did not dare to approach and were a little far away. Especially when they saw the appearance of the Fubao Kyankan Tower, they were even more afraid. Even if they were unwilling in their hearts or had other ideas, they did not dare to be the first bird to stop Long Yan. After all, it was a Fubao, and anyone who was hit by it might die directly. However, Long Yan did not dare to be careless, but became more cautious. He had seen the boat capsize in the gutter more than once, so it was not the time to relax yet. Although Long Yan was cautious, he was not slow at all. Instead, he was worried that if he was slow, something might happen. So he came to the side of the deep pool in a flash, and at the same time, he transformed into a huge hand of spiritual power and grabbed the pure spirit green lotus. This pure spirit green lotus did not have any roots, but was suspended in the air at the top of the white jade cylinder, so Long Yan did not need to pick it like other spiritual medicines, but chose to wrap up the whole pure spirit green lotus. The next moment, the giant hand of spiritual power returned to Long Yan with the pure spirit green lotus. Haha, I got it. Long Yan was ecstatic and immediately took out an exquisite jade box, then dispersed the giant hand of spiritual power, and then put the pure spirit green lotus directly into the jade box. At this moment, Long Yan almost wanted to laugh out loud. With his pure spirit green lotus, when he breaks through to the golden core stage, the quality of the golden core will not only reach the first grade, but at least the second grade. In this way, he will definitely be able to achieve the nascent soul stage in the future. Such a happy event made Long Yan couldn't help but relax a little because of ecstasy. Because the pure spirit green lotus was already in his hands, he subconsciously relaxed a little. However, just when he wanted to put the jade box into the storage bag, something strange happened. Swish! A silver-white sharp arrow appeared in front of Long Yan silently, and pointed directly at the jade box in his hand. At the same time, a faint, invisible, but thin silk thread appeared next to the jade box at the same time, and then cleverly wrapped around the jade box. This attack was timed perfectly, just when Long Yan had already obtained the pure spirit green lotus and was slightly relaxed, and it was a two-pronged attack. Even Long Yan was a little slow to react. Old Huangfu, how dare you? When Long Yan reacted, the silver-white arrow and the silk thread were already in front of him, and the speed was so fast that he was a little unprepared. He only had time to roar and subconsciously retract his hands. The next moment, the silver-white arrow hit the jade box in Long Yan's hand. Long Yan watched the arrow hit the jade box with disbelief and rage on his face, as if he had seen the jade box being shattered by the arrow, and the pure spirit green lotus inside was also damaged. Bang! But the scene that Long Yan imagined did not appear. The arrow did hit the jade box, but at the moment of hitting the jade box, it did not burst out with greater power. Instead, a trace of soft power appeared, and the jade box in Long Yan's hand was directly knocked out. The jade box instantly broke away from Long Yan's hand, drew a parabola in the air, and flew out of the island. The direction where the jade box was thrown was exactly the northeast direction that Wei Hong had deduced before. At the same time, when the sharp sword knocked the jade box away, the invisible silk thread also followed like a shadow, swiftly catching up with the jade box and wrapping around it. Obviously, Huang Fuyun seemed to have accepted his fate before and did not dare to fight for it again, but when Long Yan was really carried away by his pride, he did not hesitate to explode directly, using both positive and strange methods to try to snatch the pure spirit green lotus from Long Yan's hands. It must be said that Huang Fuyun was not only very patient, but also very good at this move, and the timing was just right, which really allowed him to succeed in one strike. As long as the silk thread pulled the jade box back to Huang Fuyun, it would be difficult for Long Yan to snatch the pure spirit green lotus back. Long Yan also knew this very well, and at this time he roared in anger, "Old Huangfu, you are looking for death." Before he finished speaking, Long Yan used his flying sword to cut the silk thread directly. At the same time, he immediately chased after the flying jade box, wanting to get it back in his hands. At this time, Huang Fuyun was also approaching the jade box at a high speed, and he was even faster than Long Yan. But no one expected that something unexpected would happen at this time. Puff! The lake water at the edge of the island suddenly exploded, and an unclear figure rushed out of the lake like thunder. What? Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were both shocked. They didn't expect that someone would hide under the lake. They had no idea before, but now when they saw the figure appear, their hearts suddenly skipped a beat, and they immediately had a bad premonition, and their speed suddenly increased a lot. Sure enough, the figure that suddenly rose up was not only extremely fast, but also appeared at a very wonderful time, just when the jade box was about to be thrown out of the island. The next moment, the figure directly grabbed the flying jade box in his hand. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 836, Melee, Escape. Haha, got it. Wei Hong, who was not far away, was overjoyed when he saw the paperman grab the jade box, and he was also ready to respond. The sudden appearance of the paperman was completely beyond the expectations of Long Yan and Huang Fuyun, so that they had no time to make other responses. The jade box was successfully taken by the paperman, and the paperman stuffed the jade box into the storage bag without any hesitation. Seeing this scene, Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were so angry that their eyes were about to burst, their faces became extremely ferocious, and their eyes were about to spit fire. Who would have thought that the two of them fought to the death and used all means, but in the end, others benefited. Not to mention the impact on their reputation if it was spread out. Even now, Long Yan and Huang Fuyun could not accept this fact at all. How dare you? You thief, die? Stop it. Leave the jade box to me. Huang Fuyun and Long Yan were so angry that they shouted angrily. The offensive that was originally prepared to attack each other immediately turned to the paperman. They had been fighting for so long, and they were absolutely unwilling to let a mysterious monk suddenly take advantage of it. Therefore, in a rage, Long Yan and Huang Fuyun both wanted to kill the paperman on the spot to vent their anger. Long Yan first sacrificed the flying sword, and then immediately urged the Kyankan Tower talisman to suppress the paperman fiercely. Huang Fuyun shot a sharp arrow again, and at the same time, the silk thread was also fiercely wrapped around the paperman. Not only that, the two of them turned around and rushed towards the paperman. But Wei Hong had expected this long ago. Under his control, after the paperman put away the jade box, he immediately turned around and fled madly in the direction of the main body, without even looking behind him. At the same time, the paperman also threw more than 20 self-destructing talismans behind him while fleeing. The next moment, just as Long Yan and Huang Fuyun's attacks were coming one after another, the more than 20 self-destructing talismans were also completely activated, and they exploded in an instant. Boom! The terrifying and violent explosion directly blocked all the attacks of Long Yan and Huang Fuyun. Whether it was the flying sword or the talisman, they were all eclipsed by the violent explosion. Even the Kyankan Tower talisman was severely repelled for a distance. Not only that, the power of the explosion was extremely terrifying, and the range of influence was very wide. Even Long Yan and Huang Fuyun, who were chasing after them, were affected. Waves of shock waves continued to attack them. Long Yan and Huang Fuyun's faces changed suddenly. They didn't expect that the mysterious monk had such a terrible talisman in his hand. Swish! Long Yan suddenly stopped the momentum of pursuit, and with a swish, he took out the damaged green shield and Yurui, and blocked them in front of him, not daring to be careless at all. Because he could fully sense how terrible the explosive power produced by those talismans was, and he might be seriously injured if he was not careful. Huang Fuyun also had a solemn face. He could only take out another J talisman. After activating it, a layer of shield appeared to cover it, and then block the waves of shock waves. The paperman instantly restrained Long Yan and Huang Fuyun. Wei Hong had also appeared quietly. He and the paperman quickly approached each other. While Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were temporarily stopped, he grabbed the storage bag on the paperman and put the paperman away with a wave of his hand. At this moment, except for Long Yan and Huang Fuyun who were temporarily stopped, the monks in the distance who did not dare to approach were stunned and even unbelievable. Who would have thought that the ending was originally thought to be set, but they did not expect such a change to happen. This was completely beyond the expectations of all the monks present. Wow! The hundreds of monks in the distance were suddenly in an uproar. Seeing that a mysterious cultivator could actually benefit from the strongest Long Yan and Huang Fuyun, other cultivators also had thoughts that they shouldn't have, and even many cultivators had already started to move and surrounded Wei Hong. Once Wei Hong was surrounded by hundreds of cultivators, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape with his strength. However, Wei Hong seemed to have expected this. After he put away the paperman, he immediately bit the tip of his tongue fiercely, and then spit out a large mouthful of blood. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Wei Hong immediately pinched his hands and controlled the blood to turn into blood mist to cover it. At the same time, he was chanting something in his mouth, and the spiritual power in his body was gushing out crazily. As the spell continued to be chanted, the blood mist began to turn into a light green color, and a hint of fragrance appeared, which looked very strange. At this time, although Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were temporarily blocked, they could clearly see Wei Hong's actions. With their eyesight, they could naturally see that he was clearly performing an escape technique. Quick, stop him! Stop him! The pure spirit green lotus is in his hand. Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were so angry that they roared wildly, wishing they could stop Wei Hong immediately. But their roars had no effect at all, and the monks in the distance were completely unable to stop him. Thank you both. Before leaving, Wei Hong smiled faintly at Long Yan and Huang Fuyun with a changed voice. The next moment, the green blood mist suddenly dispersed, and Wei Hong's figure disappeared with it. He performed the wood release technique that he had learned for a long time but never had the opportunity to use. Facing the siege of hundreds of monks, Wei Hong did not dare to be careless. He did not want to use all his trump cards to break through the encirclement, which would not only easily expose his identity, but also might make him completely left behind. Therefore, Wei Hong decisively chose to use the wood release technique to escape. Although he would suffer a lot of damage due to the use of part of his blood essence, this was definitely the safest escape plan. Moreover, the pure spirit green lotus was already in hand, and it was definitely not a wise choice to continue to tangle with these monks. The only correct choice was to escape completely, otherwise it would be extremely difficult for these monks to find him. In an instant, Wei Hong had completely left this place. Seeing this scene, Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were so angry that they trembled all over, and their faces became twisted and ferocious. They couldn't believe it was true. Run, run. Long Yan was stunned in disbelief, with anger and unwillingness in his eyes. Who would have thought that the fight for the pure spirit green lotus would end with such a result? Huang Fuyun was so angry that he gritted his teeth and wished to cut Wei Hong into pieces, or even let his soul fly away, so as to vent his endless anger. And those monks who were about to surround him couldn't help but look at each other and stopped subconsciously. For a while, the entire area around the lake was plunged into an eerie silence. Chapter 837, Short of Money. Puff. Wei Hong spat out a mouthful of blood and stumbled forward a step. Fortunately, he stood firm immediately and looked around with a vigilant face. His feet were soft and he even felt his body sink slightly when he stumbled forward. He looked carefully and found that he was actually at the edge of a swamp. The edge where he was not a swamp, but the soil was slightly soft and would sink slightly when he stepped on it. Otherwise, it was not much different from the normal ground. Huh? Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief and then said to himself with a face full of relief, "Haha, I'm out. Fortunately, I'm not trapped." At this time, his face was very pale, not only because he consumed some of his blood and energy when performing the wood release technique, but also because his body was shaken when he just finished the escape technique, so he vomited a lot of blood, which made him inevitably injured. This was because Wei Hong felt that the distance of the wood release technique was too close and not safe enough, so he performed it twice in a row, and then he escaped from the deep inner domain hundreds of miles away and came to such a swamp. However, such injuries are not serious. The main thing is that he has lost a lot of blood in essence. He needs to rest for a while to recover. Of course, if he uses vitality points, he can recover immediately. Now there are not many vitality points left. It is better to rest for a while. It is a good opportunity to avoid other cultivators and treat it as a retreat. Wei Hong thought for a while and decided not to use vitality points to heal his wounds. Since entering the secret realm, he has killed many cultivators and monsters and regained tens of thousands of vitality points. However, these tens of thousands of vitality points seem to be a lot, but he has now reached the 9th level of foundation building. There is no need for ordinary spells. Alchemy and talisman drawing are temporarily sufficient, and there is no need to waste vitality points. In this way, he must consider his upcoming pill formation. At that time, he may need more vitality points, so Wei Hong dare not rashly consume the stored vitality points at will, so as not to be stretched when he really needs them and can't brush them out even if he wants to. So he prepared to find a secret place to heal his wounds and hide himself in seclusion. This time, he snatched the pure spirit green lotus from Long Yan and Huang Fuyun. Long Yan and Huang Fuyun would never give up. Therefore, he had to hide well and must not go out rashly during this period. Let's check first to see if there is a hidden place here. Wei Hong had made a decision in his heart, and his consciousness instantly extended outward. At the same time, his eyes began to look around, wanting to see what the surrounding environment was like. Looking around, there were mountains and trees, but those trees were not particularly tall. Instead, they looked shorter, and the branches and leaves were very lush. Right in front of him was a large swamp. Even if he was just standing on the edge of the swamp, Wei Hong could smell the smell of the swamp at this moment, but the smell surprised him very much. There was no stench at all, but a faint fragrance, just like the fragrance of some flowers and plants after a rainstorm. There are also many aquatic plants growing in the swamp, such as reeds and cattails, etc. On the surface, there seems to be nothing unusual, but I don't know if there are any monsters hidden under the swamp. Under Wei Hong's spiritual sense scanning, the environment within hundreds of feet around is already familiar to him. Except for this swamp in the middle of the mountain forest, there are large tracts of mountain forests around, but this does not seem to be the Bihan Mountains, but another branch. The peaks in this mountain forest are not very tall, ranging from several feet to dozens of feet high, and the vegetation is also very dense. There are also mountain streams and valleys. Moreover, Wei Hong's spiritual sense did not detect any traces of monsters, which made him a little relieved. Yes, this place can be used as a hidden retreat. Wei Hong nodded secretly, and then immediately flew up on his sword. He flew quickly to the west and soon saw a small valley. The small valley was next to a stream, next to a mountain stream, and surrounded by 3 hills more than 10 feet high, which surrounded such a small valley. Seeing this, Wei Hong immediately flew down and soon landed in the valley. There were no monsters in the valley, but there were some small animals such as hares and pheasants. The valley was also overgrown with weeds and rocks, and it looked like no one had ever set foot there. Seeing this, Wei Hong was very satisfied and said secretly, "Yes, this valley is not large in area, but it is hidden and quiet. It is a good choice." After scanning it with his spiritual sense, he made a final decision. So Wei Hong waved his hand and let the 3 paper figures go. The 3 paper figures all had some formation flags on them. Under Wei Hong's control, the 3 paper figures quickly nailed all the formation flags in their hands into specific positions. They arranged a fantasy Xianluo formation. This formation has the effect of concealing the breath and changing the terrain, and it is just right to use it at this time. It's not that Wei Hong didn't want to set up the 6 Absolute Blue Thunder formation, but because the 6 Absolute Blue Thunder formation requires 6 paper figures to preside over the formation together. He couldn't let the 6 paper figures stay outside all the time, otherwise it would be easy to be exposed. Therefore, this illusionary sky formation is the most suitable formation, and it cannot be discovered by those who are not powerful in spiritual awareness. Wei Hong made a hand gesture and activated the formation immediately. After activating the formation, if someone looked from outside the valley, they would find that there was no valley at all, but hills like the surroundings, with streams and mountain streams next to them, which looked harmonious and normal. After setting up the formation, he took out a flying sword and controlled it to cut the rocks, and soon built a stone house in the middle of the valley. After all, this valley was very desolate, with weeds and rocks everywhere, and no caves, so he could only temporarily build a stone house as a place to retreat and heal. At the same time, Wei Hong controlled 3 paper figures to simply clean up the inside of the valley, which looked much more pleasing to the eye. Well, it's almost done, so let's retreat here for a while, and leave the secret realm when the time is up. Wei Hong had made up his mind that if nothing unexpected happened, he would stay here until the end of the secret realm. The secret realm lasted for 3 months, and now more than half of it had passed, with a total of more than a month left. As long as he was careful, he could delay it until the end of the duration. So Wei Hong slowly walked into the stone house, took out a golden silk cushion from the storage bag and spread it on the ground, then sat cross-legged on the golden silk cushion and began to assume the posture of cultivation. The valley has since fallen into silence. Chapter 838 Blood Spirit Looking for Enemies. At the same time, above the small island in the center of the lake deep in the inner domain, hundreds of monks were looking at each other from a distance. As the ultimate beneficiary, Wei Hong had quietly fled away. The rest of them who remained at the scene, however, did not gain anything. Even though they had fought a crazy melee for this before, it had no effect. Even everyone present had no idea of Wei Hong's identity, and could only watch him snatch the pure spirit green lotus and immediately flee away. That scene deeply stimulated everyone at the scene. For a while, the scene fell into a strange silence. No one spoke, everyone had different expressions, and various lights flashed in their eyes. The atmosphere at the scene was very awkward and weird. Some people saw that there was no profit, so they turned around and left without hesitation, fearing that they would suffer an unprovoked disaster. After a while, a middle-aged monk suddenly clasped his fists and said, "Everyone, now that things have come to this, we don't have to fight for anything anymore, so Joe will take his leave." After that, this person also flew away on a sword. Many cultivators followed and soon left in a hurry. Only Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were still standing still, and no one knew what they were thinking. But if you look closely, you will find that Long Yan's face is as black as the bottom of a pot, his eyes are full of murderous intent, and the whole person exudes an extremely cold chill. Obviously, he is very angry about the result of being taken advantage of by others. Huang Fuyun seems to have calmed down. He has no expression on his face and his eyes are just cold, but he is not as furious as Long Yan. Long Yan looked at Huang Fuyun coldly, threw a word and turned away. "Huang Fu, old dog, you are lucky today. When you return to the fairy city, I will definitely teach you a lesson. Since the pure spirit green lotus has been taken away by someone, there is no point in them fighting for it, so Long Yan doesn't want to stay here any longer, so he left directly." However, facing Long Yan's threatening words, Huang Fuyun seemed to have heard nothing, and did not respond at all, just watching Long Yan leave coldly. Huang Fuyun's expression became complicated only after Long Yan left. Rage, resentment, hatred, and a strong killing intent. All kinds of emotions emerged, almost making Huang Fuyun's teeth break. "No matter who you are, no matter where you escape to, since you dare to kill my Huang Fu family and dare to pull teeth from my mouth, I will make you die and never reincarnate." Huang Fuyun gritted his teeth and squeezed out such a sentence viciously. It turned out that he had already realized that Wei Hong was the murderer who killed Huang Fuming. Because when Wei Hong took action to respond to the paper man, Long Yan and Huang Fuyun were also chasing after the paper man. Although they were temporarily blocked by the self-destructing talisman cast by the paper man, the distance between him and Wei Hong was not far at that time, so he vaguely sensed the blood curse on Wei Hong. It's just that Wei Hong's movements were too fast, and he didn't have time to react. Wei Hong had already used the escape technique to escape, so Huang Fuyun could only watch Wei Hong leave. However, He was different from Long Yan. Although Long Yan and others were unwilling, they had obviously given up chasing Wei Hong. After all, they all knew very well that as long as Wei Hong was hiding, they had no other means to find him. But Huang Fuyun was different. Since he recognized Wei Hong as the murderer of Huang Fuming, and he also sensed the existence of the blood curse, he could find Wei Hong with the blood spirit secret technique passed down by the clan. The blood spirit secret technique was originally a matching secret technique created by the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family for the blood curse. All the direct blood of the Huangfu family, as long as they sense the existence of the blood curse, can use the blood spirit secret technique to determine the location of the cursed person. Of course, this premise is that the other party is within 1,000 miles of the caster. It is impossible to sense it beyond this range, which is also related to the caster's own strength. Huang Fuyun naturally didn't believe that Wei Hong could run thousands of miles away, so he was very confident in finding Wei Hong. "Wait, I will definitely find you." Huang Fuyun's face was ferocious, and his eyes were full of hatred and gloom. Whether it was a blood feud between relatives or a hatred for the treasure, he was full of the determination to kill Wei Hong. So Huang Fuyun didn't plan to find another place, but landed directly on the island in the middle of the lake. He took out a 3-finger-sized blood-red jade card from the storage bag. The jade card was triangular in shape, with some mysterious patterns engraved on the surface, and a small groove in the center. There was a drop of bright red blood the size of a little finger in the groove. This drop of bright red blood was wrapped in a layer of transparent material, which was equivalent to being embedded in the blood-red jade card. After taking out the jade card, Huang Fuyun held the jade card gently with a solemn face, and then wrapped the jade card with spiritual power, letting it float in front of him. The next moment, Huang Fuyun bit his tongue hard, and then sprayed a stream of blood towards the jade card, and the blood instantly wrapped the entire jade card. Buzz! The jade card wrapped in blood immediately trembled slightly with a buzzing sound, and the drop of blood embedded in the center of the jade card also emitted a faint blood light. After the blood arrow spurted out, Huang Fuyun immediately pinched his hands together, and muttered something in his mouth, allowing the layer of blood mist wrapped around the jade card to slowly penetrate into the jade card. As the outer layer of blood mist slowly penetrated into the jade card, the drop of bright red blood in the center of the jade card not only bloomed a brighter blood light, but also began to slowly deform. Under Huang Fuyun's performance, combined with the formula and blood, the drop of blood in the center of the jade card slowly stretched and extended, and then turned into a small blood arrow with an arrowhead. At this moment, the jade card no longer needed Huang Fuyun's spiritual power to be suspended in the air. At this time, Huang Fuyun had finished chanting the spell. He immediately changed a spell and then whispered, "Blood spirit looking for the enemy, go." Buzz! The blood-red jade plate immediately vibrated with a buzzing sound, obviously responding to Huang Fuyun's secret technique. The next moment, the tiny blood arrow formed by the drop of blood in the center of the jade plate began to slowly turn its direction, and the entire jade plate also slowly turned, as if looking for something. In less than 5 breaths, the jade plate stopped turning, and then the tiny blood arrow and the triangular tip of the jade plate pointed directly to the west, flashing a faint blood light. "West? Good, very good, I will find you soon, bastard, just wait for me." Seeing that the blood spirit secret technique was really effective and successfully found the direction of the cursor, Huang Fuyun was instantly overjoyed, and the murderous intent in his heart soared. So Huang Fuyun immediately grabbed the jade plate in his hand, then flew up on his sword and flew quickly towards the west, ready to find the hidden Wei Hong thoroughly. Chapter 839 The Boy Who Brings Wealth. In the stone house, Wei Hong sat cross-legged, with 2 empty jade bottles in front of him. He swallowed several healing pills one after another, and was quickly refining the medicinal power. Fortunately, he knew how to make pills, and he always carried several healing pills with him, which came in handy at this time, and there was no need to waste vitality points. At this time, Wei Hong had a vague feeling of uneasiness in his heart, which made him dare not use vitality points wantonly, for fear that he would not be able to find them when he really needed them, so he would rather spend more time healing himself. Fortunately, his injuries were not very serious, and the pills he took also had obvious medicinal effects. As he continued to practice the skills to refine the pills, his face slowly became ruddy again, no longer pale. At this time, Wei Hong was concentrating on healing his wounds in seclusion, but he had no idea that his murder of Huang Fuming had been exposed, and he didn't know that Huang Fuyun was using the blood spirit secret technique to rush towards his hiding place. His mind was immersed in his own state. On the other side, with the guidance of the blood-red jade tablet, Huang Fuyun would perform the blood spirit secret technique again every once in a while to determine the direction, and then he would continue to fly forward at a high speed. Soon, under the guidance of the jade tablet, Huang Fuyun came to the sky above the swamp that Wei Hong had seen before, and then the jade tablet kept pointing to the small valley where Wei Hong was hiding. Just over there? Good, very good, he really hid. Looking at the area not far away, Huang Fuyun immediately sneered. With the guidance of the jade tablet, he followed all the way here, and his goal was very clear. And as he imagined, the murderer who killed his nephew was indeed hiding, and now he was staying in the area ahead. So Huang Fuyun no longer hesitated, and began to approach quietly under the guidance of the jade tablet. At the same time, Huang Fuyun also took out the white-blue sky-breaking bow and flying sword and other spiritual weapons, so that he could control the spiritual weapons to fight the enemy at any time, and at the same time, his spiritual consciousness was slowly released. However, when he came to the area indicated by the jade card, Huang Fuyun's spiritual sense quietly scanned it, but he did not find anything unusual. It seemed that there was no one hiding there. There was only a mountain stream and a stream. However, Huang Fuyun was absolutely confident in the blood spirit secret art, so he cast the spell again, and the blood-colored arrow on the jade card pointed straight ahead again, flashing blood light rapidly. Very good, you are hiding there, right? I guess you have set up a formation, no wonder you dare to stay here. After finding out the approximate location of Wei Hong, Huang Fuyun's eyes flashed with cold light. So he stopped wasting energy, but decisively picked up the Bai Kangpo Yuanbo, and then used spiritual power as a guide to instantly transform into a sharp arrow. Whoosh! Whoosh! Huang Fuyun fired 3 sharp arrows in a row, pointing directly at the area ahead. He knew that the other party must have set up a concealing formation. Since it could not be seen through, he simply broke the formation with force. Huang Fuyun believed that the formation set up by the other party would definitely not be able to stop the Bai Kangpo Tiangbo. Sure enough, just as he expected, after the first sharp arrow shot out hundreds of feet, it seemed to be blocked by an invisible barrier and its speed slowed down. But the next 2 sharp arrows followed closely, and with a puff, the invisible barrier was broken. The original scene also changed dramatically. After the invisible barrier was broken, a small valley appeared out of thin air, and there was a simple stone house in the valley. It's here. Huang Fuyun smiled coldly, and the next moment he drew his bow and arrows again. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 more sharp arrows were pointed directly at the stone house in the valley. However, at the moment when the formation was broken, Wei Hong, who was staying in the stone house, sensed the danger, so he immediately blasted the stone house and flew up with his sword, just avoiding the 3 sharp arrows. Wei Hong's face was stern, and he subconsciously sacrificed the black iron flying shield and the yellow umbrella to protect himself, and then he focused his attention and looked forward. It's you? Huang Fuyun. After seeing the face of the person coming, Wei Hong was immediately surprised. He didn't expect that Huang Fuyun could come to him directly less than a day after he escaped from the inner domain, and it seemed that it was definitely not a coincidence. It was clear that he had used some secret tracking technique. But Wei Hong was also surprised at this time, wondering why Huang Fuyun could find his location so accurately. When Huang Fuyun saw Wei Hong finally show up, he immediately sneered with murderous intent. Why, are you surprised? Did you think that someone would find your whereabouts? Or did you think that no one knew that you killed our Huangfu family? Thief, today I will make you pay with blood. Swish. Huang Fuyun had no intention of talking nonsense with Wei Hong. After a few simple words, he drew his bow and arrow again, shot 2 arrows straight at Wei Hong, and at the same time, the flying sword stabbed straight at Wei Hong. Huang Fuyun's words made Wei Hong's eyes shrink slightly, and he instantly understood the reason. Obviously, the development of things was still beyond his expectations. It was obvious that Huang Fuyun had sensed the blood curse on him when they were fighting for the pure spirit green lotus before, so after he escaped, he performed an unknown secret technique to find his hiding place. If so, then everything makes sense. Wei Hong was no longer surprised and doubtful. He instantly summoned the Jin sword and directly blocked the opponent's flying sword, and then dodged the 2 arrows. Haha, blood debt must be paid with blood? That depends on whether you have the ability to do so. Wei Hong laughed out loud at this time, his tone full of sarcasm. You Huangfu family are really a boy who sends money. One after another comes. In this case, I will not be polite. After that, he immediately made a seal with his hands, and in less than 2 breaths, 2 thick green vines like dragons broke out of the ground in the mountains and forests, and whipped Huangfu Yun in midair. At the same time, Wei Hong threw out 3 more talismans, which instantly turned into dense short blades and then covered Huangfu Yun. In an instant, he completed the switch from offense to defense. Huangfu Yun was instantly furious when he heard this, and his face became extremely ferocious. Okay, you thief who speaks arrogantly, today I will make you die. Wei Hong's words can be said to have touched Huangfu Yun's sore spot. He didn't expect that the other party not only had no regrets after killing his nephew, but also wanted to kill him together. This almost made Huangfu Yun bite his teeth. Buzz! A thick shield instantly protected him. The next moment, the 2 dragon green vines whipped directly over, and the dense short blades also chopped down fiercely, with an amazing momentum. Bang bang! Clang clang clang! But apart from 2 muffled sounds and a crisp sound, those attacks did not cause any other effects on the shield set up by Huangfu Yun. Huangfu Yun clasped his hands together with an expressionless face, staring at Wei Hong. Chapter 840 Unusual. Huh? A giant tornado with a diameter of more than 10 feet condensed and formed in an instant. Under the control of Huangfu Yun, it immediately rolled towards Wei Hong. With 1 attack and 1 defense, Huangfu Yun showed the strong foundation and strength of a peak foundation building cultivator. With a shield formed by the Jade Talisman, he didn't care about Wei Hong's general attacks at all. But the storm technique he cast was extremely powerful, and he believed that it would definitely be enough to make Wei Hong drink a pot. After finding Wei Hong, Huangfu Yun didn't even think about asking Wei Hong's name and identity. In his opinion, since Wei Hong dared to kill the members of their Huangfu family, he must not dare to reveal his true identity, so it would be useless to ask. In this case, it would be better to do it directly. The giant storm swept in crazily, and at the same time, Huangfu Yun opened his bow and arrow again and aimed at Wei Hong. In an instant, Wei Hong felt a chill rising from his back. He looked at the giant storm that was sweeping in, and his eyes were full of solemnity. Wei Hong naturally sensed the terrifying power of the giant storm and would never let himself be drawn into it. So without thinking, he threw 5 self-destructing talismans directly at the approaching giant storm, and immediately pulled back, and the flying black iron shield also blocked in front of him to block Huangfu Yun's sight. Boom! The 5 self-destructing talismans were instantly drawn into the storm, and then immediately issued a shocking explosion. The fierce flames accompanied by violent shock waves soon shattered the giant storm into pieces, and gradually no longer took shape, but turned into a series of whirlwinds that slowly dissipated. At this time, Huangfu Yun loosened his fingers again. Whoosh! Whoosh! 3 arrows transformed by spiritual power shot from the left and right sides, not blocked by the shield at all. Obviously, under the cover and lock of the divine consciousness, Huangfu Yun would not be affected by the side at all, but could lock Wei Hong more accurately. However, at this time, 2 dragon green vines suddenly came out from halfway and whipped them hard as if intercepting. Puff! Under the whipping of the dragon green vine, the 3 arrows were instantly scattered. However, the 2 dragon green vines were also broken into 2 pieces and fell from the air. Wei Hong didn't care about the 2 dragon green vines at all. He just stretched out his hand and pointed, and a huge flame-slashing knife appeared above Huangfu Yun's head, and then slashed it down fiercely. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he also quietly released 6 paper figures and asked the 6 paper figures to immediately disperse outside the valley to prepare to set up the formation. Unexpectedly, a thin and invisible silk thread had already arrived in front of Wei Hong. Wei Hong's face changed slightly. He didn't expect that Huangfu Yun's spiritual weapon was so strange. He immediately controlled the yellow umbrella to block in front of him, and at the same time, he suddenly retreated. Swish! The yellow umbrella was like water tofu in front of the thin silk thread, and was directly cut into 2 halves. What kind of spiritual weapon is this? It's so sharp. Wei Hong was shocked when he saw the Huangluo umbrella being cut in half. Huangfu Yun also felt a little regretful. He didn't expect that this move couldn't hurt Wei Hong. At this time, he had put away the Beikan potion bow. After all, using spiritual power to transform arrows all the time still consumed a lot of spiritual power. He didn't dare to continue consuming it like this. Huangfu Yun took out a flying knife talisman from the storage bag. It was obvious that he didn't want to entangle with Wei Hong anymore. He was ready to kill him completely with thunder and lightning to avenge his blood. This flying knife talisman was already his biggest trump card. He believed that Wei Hong had absolutely no talisman that could fight against it. But before Huang Fuyun activated the talisman, a layer of green light curtain suddenly rose outside the valley. The green light curtain instantly enveloped the entire valley, including Wei Hong and Huang Fuyun in the sky, and immediately isolated the inside and outside. Huang Fuyun was slightly startled by this sudden change. Formation? You have a companion. But Huang Fuyun immediately shook his head. He was very sure that there was no third cultivator around. This was definitely not the other party's companion. It should be a substitute or a puppet. Thinking of this, Huang Fuyun was relieved. However, in the next moment, a large cloud suddenly gathered over the valley. The dark and heavy clouds looked extremely terrifying, and there were constant lightning and thunder in the clouds. Huang Fuyun frowned, obviously seeing that this formation was quite unusual. But he looked at the talisman in his hand again, and smiled coldly. Want to use the formation against me? Then I will break your formation first. Puff. Huang Fuyun bit his tongue and spurted out a mouthful of blood. All the blood was absorbed by the flying knife talisman, and then the spiritual power in Huang Fuyun's body began to flow into the talisman crazily. Cut. After activating the talisman completely, Huang Fuyun shouted loudly. Swish. A pitch-black flying knife about 10 feet long immediately slashed from bottom to top, with a hint of extremely tyrannical momentum. Puff. The dark cloud that was about to drop the green thunder was directly chopped into pieces by the pitch-black flying knife, and the entire dark cloud completely dissipated into nothingness under the vibration of the knife energy. Not only that, the pitch-black flying knife continued to move forward, and even the outer layer of green light curtain was completely cut in half, breaking the 6 absolute green thunder formation directly. Wei Hong was shocked. This was the first time that the 6 absolute green thunder formation was directly broken by someone. But at this time, he had no time to think about it, because Huang Fuyun controlled the pitch-black flying knife and slashed directly at him. At this moment, Wei Hong felt that even his soul was locked tightly. He knew that he could never avoid this attack. There was no other way except to take it head-on. Wei Hong looked extremely solemn, but under Huang Fuyun's surprised gaze, he actually put away the flying black iron shield, and then threw out 5 self-destructing talismans, and then condensed a clear and misty sword light, and slashed at the pitch-black flying knife. Oh, you really don't know how to live or die. Seeing Wei Hong's unavoidable appearance, Huang Fuyun sneered again and again. He seemed to have foreseen the scene of Wei Hong being cut in half, and even his eyes began to become excited and bloodthirsty. Boom. The 5 self-destructing talismans exploded first, and the powerful power made the pitch-black flying knife pause slightly, and then continued to chop down, but the momentum of the pitch-black flying knife had weakened by 2 points. Buzz! The clear and misty sword light collided directly with the pitch-black flying knife, but the sword light was as brittle as thin paper in front of the pitch-black flying knife, and was directly annihilated by the touch of the pitch-black flying knife, and only blocked it for a moment. The next moment, the pitch-black flying knife slashed straight down towards Wei Hong. Puff. Wei Hong, who was unable to dodge, seemed to be cut in half by the knife, and had no power to resist at all. Haha, thief, let's see whether you can survive this time. Seeing the scene of Wei Hong being cut in half, Huang Fuyun laughed ecstatically. Chapter 841 Snatching Food from the Tiger's Mouth. Bang! The next moment, 2 broken wooden stakes suddenly replaced Wei Hong, who seemed to have been split in half. So much so that even blood did not appear. Wei Hong's figure disappeared directly on the spot. Huh? Huang Fuyun's laughter was suddenly stuck in the middle of his throat, just like a drake that was suddenly strangled by the neck and could not speak. Seeing the scene in front of him, Huang Fuyun's eyes almost popped out, as if he had seen something incredible, and the whole person was shocked. What's going on? Huang Fuyun muttered in disbelief, and a trace of confusion appeared in his eyes. However, he quickly reacted, and then looked around frantically with an ugly look. Obviously, he had seen that Wei Hong was definitely not killed, and he should have used a substitute or other magic to escape, and now he didn't know where he was hiding. Even his consciousness did not sense Wei Hong's location, which made Huang Fuyun nervous and uneasy. He immediately recalled the talisman and looked around with a vigilant face. After a while, Wei Hong slowly walked out from behind a big tree on the side of the valley. His face was slightly pale. He looked at Huang Fuyun and smiled coldly. It is worthy of being a talisman given by a giant and cultivator. It is really terrible. In order to avoid the fatal blow of the flying knife talisman, he had to use the Renmu substitute technique to avoid the killing intent. Of course, he looked pale now, but it was just for Huang Fuyun to see. In the first time to avoid the killing intent, he consumed his vitality points to recover all his injuries in order to continue to deal with Huang Fuyun. At this time, Wei Hong was also thinking secretly in his heart, I didn't expect the talisman in Huang Fuyun's hand to be so terrifying that even the 6 absolute blue thunder formation can be easily broken. Now that the formation is useless, it seems that I have to fight hard this time. Although he had a lot of trump cards in his hand, he was facing Huang Fuyun, who was at the peak of the foundation building stage, and the other party also had a terrible talisman. His trump cards were not enough to fight against the talisman in Huang Fuyun's hand. Unless Wei Hong's eyes flashed with cold light, but he had secretly made up his mind. Huang Fuyun was relieved when he saw Wei Hong reappear, and sneered disdainfully, well, you are indeed a man who can snatch food from the tiger's mouth. I want to see how many times you can escape. With the talisman in his hand, Huang Fuyun was confident that even if Wei Hong could continue to perform the substitution technique, he would be sure to kill him on the spot. After all, the power of the talisman was absolutely unmatched in the foundation building period. Huang Fuyun saw that Wei Hong's face was pale at this time, and he knew that performing the substitution technique must have a considerable price. Moreover, Huang Fuyun had already seen that although the opponent was only at the 9th level of the foundation building stage, his strength was extremely strong, and his methods were endless, which made him feel dreadful. Now, he just wanted to kill him quickly with a force of thunder. With his trump card, the only thing that could threaten Wei Hong at the moment was the flying knife talisman. After that, Huang Fuyun stopped talking nonsense, and controlled the flying knife talisman to chop down Wei Hong again, obviously hating Wei Hong very much. Swish! The 10-foot-long black flying knife instantly cut through the air and slashed down at Wei Hong. However, Huang Fuyun's face turned pale and bloodless after using the talisman again. Wei Hong looked at the black flying knife that swept over again, but his eyes were very calm. He knew that with his current strength and means, he could not resist the talisman, but with the existence of the Minmu substitute technique, he was not afraid to consume Huang Fuyun. Wei Hong did not dodge, but looked at Huang Fuyun with a sneer and sarcasm on his face. Puff! Wei Hong was cut in half again, and even the ground was cut into a terrifying gully of more than 20 feet long. But when Huang Fuyun saw the 2 broken wooden stakes again, his pupils couldn't help but shrink fiercely. The next moment, he found that there were 2 refined corpses on each side of him rushing towards him. Refined corpses. Huang Fuyun was shocked. He didn't expect Wei Hong to have such a method. The speed of the 4 refined corpses was extremely fast, and they were about to pounce on him in the blink of an eye. However, Huang Fuyun was not panicked even though he was shocked. He threw 4 talismans directly at the 4 corpses. The 4 talismans instantly turned into 4 thick lightning bolts, which directly bombarded the 4 corpses. Crack! Boom! The surface of the 4 corpses instantly became charred black, and they let out strange screams. But before Huang Fuyun could show his joy, the 4 corpses, although they looked charred, did not seem to be affected much, and rushed towards him again. What? Huang Fuyun did not expect that the thunder talisman in his hand would have no effect. So he hurriedly sacrificed 2 flying knives, and at the same time threw out several thunder talismans and swamp trap talismans, which barely blocked the 4 corpses and prevented them from getting close. After all, Huang Fuyun was just a weak Dharma cultivator, not a physical cultivator. Once the 4 corpses got close to him, even if they could not break through his shield, they could still have a great impact on him, which Huang Fuyun absolutely did not want to see. However, what appeared next made Huang Fuyun panic. Suddenly, more than 10 evil spirits rushed towards him from outside the valley. Not only were those evil spirits ferocious and terrifying, but they were also filled with evil spirits and strong auras. If ordinary foundation building cultivators saw this scene, they might be scared to death. Even Huang Fuyun was shocked. He didn't expect that Wei Hong not only had corpses, but also such terrifying evil spirits. The number of his methods and trump cards was beyond his expectation. Damn it! Huang Fuyun couldn't help but curse secretly, but he didn't have time to think about it. The next moment, he immediately took out all the remaining thunder talismans, and threw them at the more than 10 evil spirits that rushed towards him without thinking. and at the same time took out a red mirror from his storage bag. Buzz! Under the urging of spiritual power, a red light immediately shot out from the mirror surface of the red mirror, instantly covering a ghost, and emitting scorching heat. Swish! The ghost covered by the red light immediately let out a shrill and silent scream, and the yin ki on its body melted away layer by layer like snow encountering boiling water, and also made bursts of burning sounds, and a burst of green smoke rose up. The red mirror should obviously be a pure yang spiritual weapon, which can just restrain ghosts or evil spirits. Seeing that the spiritual weapon was effective, Huang Fuyun breathed a sigh of relief. But the other ghosts seemed unaware and continued to rush towards Huang Fuyun. In addition, the ghost covered by the red light was also extremely crazy, and let out a shrill and silent scream, but still rushed forward bravely, even though most of its own yin ki had melted away. In an instant, Huang Fuyun was about to be completely surrounded by the ghost. Chapter 842, Secret Technique, Ultimate Kill. In order to deal with Huang Fuyun, Wei Hong had already taken out the 10,000 Souls banner and the refined corpse. Seeing that Huang Fuyun was about to be trapped by those ghosts, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. The next moment, a bright red light suddenly flashed on Huang Fuyun's body. Buzz! The red spiritual mirror suddenly emitted a bright red light, and the scorching high temperature and pure yang aura instantly swept out, covering all the trapped ghosts, and then under the burning of the red light, a stream of green smoke rose. However, under the sudden bright red light, the mirror surface of the red mirror also appeared a series of fine cracks. Wei Hong didn't care about it at all. It was just more than a dozen foundation-building ghosts. To him, it was nothing. There were many in the 10,000 Souls banner. It was worth it to be able to force out another trump card of Huang Fuyun. He waved his hand expressionlessly, and more than a dozen foundation-building ghosts emerged from the 10,000 Souls banner again and rushed towards Huang Fuyun again. At this moment, his figure appeared not far behind Huang Fuyun. After noticing Wei Hong's appearance, Huang Fuyun suddenly turned around and looked straight at him, his eyes full of strong fear and murderous intent, and at the same time, there was a trace of barely perceptible regret. He didn't expect Wei Hong to be so difficult to deal with, and at the same time he found that he was a little arrogant. Seeing that more than 10 foundation-building ghosts came again, Huang Fuyun couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. Facing these annoying things, it was naturally impossible to use the talisman, but the only spiritual weapon on his body that could restrain the ghosts had been destroyed, and it was impossible to find something to deal with the ghosts. For this reason, Huang Fuyun gritted his teeth and took out the last J talisman. After activation, it instantly turned into a more solid shield to protect it. On the other side, Wei Hong completely ignored Huang Fuyun's actions. He directly pinched his hands together, and at the same time, he muttered something in his mouth, and the spiritual power in his body began to surge. He knew that although Huang Fuyun had consumed a lot of energy, he definitely still had the strength to fight to the death. In order to resolve the battle as soon as possible, he had to fight hard once. Ha! Wei Hong suddenly shouted loudly, and formed an extremely complex spell with his hands. The next moment, a light red light flashed on his body. Buzz! As the red light flashed, Wei Hong's aura suddenly surged a lot, even stronger than Huang Fuyun, who was at the peak of foundation building, making Huang Fuyun stare wide-eyed. What kind of secret technique is this? Huang Fuyun couldn't help but ask with a look of shock on his face. But Wei Hong smiled coldly, and he wouldn't waste words with him. After performing the burning blood exploding spirit technique, a faint blood pattern appeared on both sides of his cheeks, and the small half of the blood in his body also boiled up, turning into powerful spiritual power and injecting into Wei Hong's body. Wei Hong didn't dare to neglect it. After all, the cost of performing the burning blood exploding spirit technique was not small. Naturally, he didn't dare to delay time, so he immediately sacrificed the golden yuan sword and stabbed Huang Fuyun. At the same time, more than 10 self-destructing talismans were also shot out one after another. Not only that, Wei Hong also rushed towards Huang Fuyun. This series of fierce attacks represented that Wei Hong had also used all his strength. Huang Fuyun's eyelids twitched wildly when he saw this, but he also understood that the other party had begun to fight desperately. He immediately took a deep breath, then bit the tip of his tongue fiercely, and spit out 2 large mouthfuls of blood from his mouth, all sprayed on the talisman. He didn't believe that Wei Hong could continue to perform the substitute secret technique. The previous 2 consecutive uses of the talisman had caused the spiritual power in Huang Fuyun's body to be almost exhausted. Now if he wants to continue to activate the talisman, he must use his blood essence. Under the urging of the blood essence and the remaining spiritual power, the flying knife talisman once again exuded an extremely terrifying aura, and then slashed wildly at Wei Hong, with a terrifying momentum. Under this terrifying momentum and power, the more than 10 ghosts surrounding them were instantly shaken away. As the flying knife talisman fell again, even if the more than 10 self-destruct talismans exploded together, it only weakened the aura of the flying knife talisman by 3 points, but it could not really stop it. Wei Hong did not dodge, but went straight to meet it. Puff. Wei Hong's body was cut into 2 pieces again, but it was immediately replaced by 2 pieces of wood stakes. This was the 3rd time he used the Rinmu substitute technique. If it were an ordinary cultivator, his body would have exploded completely. But Wei Hong had a vitality point to recover his injuries, so there would be no problem even if he used it a few more times. However, Huang Fuyun's face was full of disbelief and despair after seeing this scene. He never thought that Wei Hong could really use the substitute secret technique again. Could it be that there is no cost for using such a secret technique? Huang Fuyun was extremely surprised, and then in his vigilant eyes, Wei Hong reappeared on his right side and controlled the Jinnate sword to stab him fiercely. Puff. Wei Hong, whose strength had greatly increased, controlled the golden yuan sword again, and its power was at least twice as great as before. The golden yuan sword instantly penetrated the outer golden shield, but it could not completely pierce it. Only most of the sword passed through the shield, and the golden shield flickered wildly, but it still did not dissipate. Huang Fuyun's face changed drastically, and without thinking, he took out most of the talismans from the storage bag and shot them out directly. At this time, he activated the talisman for the 3rd time. Not only was his spiritual power exhausted, but even half of his blood essence was consumed. His breath was extremely weak, and most of his strength had already gone. He could only rely on the shield on his body. At this moment, even if Huang Fuyun wanted to escape, he could not escape. But Wei Hong was determined to fight to the death, even if he used the burning blood exploding spirit technique, so how could he let him leave safely? Wei Hong suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were cold, and the spiritual power in his body was madly urged, causing the Jinnate sword to flash with golden light in an instant, and then under the horrified eyes of Huang Fuyun. Puff. The Jinnate sword fiercely pierced through the golden shield, exposing Huang Fuyun completely in front of Wei Hong. "Old Huang Fu, die for me!" Wei Hong shouted, and controlled the Jinnate sword to circle fiercely. However, the imagined beheading did not happen, because Huang Fuyun gritted his teeth and took out a piece of earthy yellow spiritual material about a foot long from the storage bag, which blocked the Jinnate sword and temporarily avoided the fate of being beheaded by a sword. However, before Huang Fuyun felt that he had escaped, a thin needle that seemed invisible had bypassed the earthy yellow spiritual material and came to the front of his eyebrows. Ah! No! Huang Fuyun was not awakened until then, and then he roared with horror and despair. Puff. The invisible needle pierced Huang Fuyun's forehead without any hesitation. A blood hole the size of a little finger instantly appeared on Huang Fuyun's head, piercing directly from front to back. In an instant, Huang Fuyun suddenly froze in place, his eyes lost all their brilliance, and all his vitality instantly dissipated. Then Huang Fuyun's body fell directly from mid-air, and then hit the valley with a bang. It was not until this time that Huang Fuyun really died here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 843, Flying Knife Talisman. Huh? Wei Hong let out a long breath, and the blood streaks on both sides of his cheeks slowly dissipated. As the blood streaks dissipated, his breath also waned. Wei Hong's face was pale and bloodless at this time, which was obviously the result of performing the burning blood explosion spirit technique. After he used some vitality points, his face slowly became ruddy again. At this time, a blood curse that was more intense than before instantly penetrated into Wei Hong's body. Looking at the body of Huang Fuyun falling into the valley, Wei Hong sighed. As expected of someone trained by the Huangfu family, he almost capsized today. In order to kill Huang Fuyun, he played all his trump cards this time, and almost all means have been used, and he barely killed him. It must be said that the foundation of those cultivators trained by the Jinden family or some large sects and forces is far from comparable to Wei Hong. Ordinary cultivators of the same level often find it difficult to compete with Huang Fuyun and others. If it weren't for Wei Hong's many trump cards, other cultivators might have become ghosts under Huang Fuyun's flying sword. As for the blood curse of the Huangfu family, he was too lazy to care. Anyway, there was no difference between one blood curse and two. Whoosh! Wei Hong waved his hand and collected all the spiritual tools such as the Jinian sword. Then he did not land in the valley immediately, but frowned and thought deeply for a while. Swish! He suddenly waved his hand, and more than 10 formation flags shot towards the valley below. In the blink of an eye, the more than 10 formation flags were inserted around Huang Fuyun's body, and a layer of light curtain soon rose, directly covering Huang Fuyun's body. A Kingmu soul trapping array was set up. In order to be cautious, Wei Hong did not hesitate to set up a formation to prevent any accidents from happening to Huang Fuyun's body. After setting up the formation, he came directly in front of Huang Fuyun's body. Buzz! The 10,000 souls banner was held in his hand, and the flag fluttered slightly. Obviously, he would never let go of Huang Fuyun's soul at the peak of the foundation building. As long as it is stored in the 10,000 souls banner, the power of the 10,000 souls banner will definitely be greatly improved. After killing Huang Fuyun, the most precious things on this corpse for him are Huang Fuyun's soul and the talisman. Wei Hong made a hand gesture, then gently shook the 10,000 souls banner, and the flag of the 10,000 souls banner also fluttered, forming an invisible suction force, directly aimed at the corpse on the ground. Buzz! The invisible suction force directly enveloped Huang Fuyun's body and began to slowly pull his remaining soul out of his body. After a while, as the suction force increased, a translucent soul began to slowly emerge, and soon the entire soul was sucked out, just floating above the corpse. But something happened that surprised Wei Hong. Under the suction force of the 10,000 souls banner, the soul just floated steadily above the corpse, and was not affected by the suction force at all, as if it could resist the suction force. Wei Hong frowned and immediately prepared to increase the suction force. But at this time, the soul sneered and said, "It turned out to be the 10,000 souls banner. No wonder so many ghosts appeared. It seems that you have killed a lot of people." Wei Hong didn't seem surprised that Huang Fuyun's soul could still speak. He just responded with a sneer on his face, "They are just some people who deserve to die, just like you, Huang Fuyun." At this time, he carefully observed Huang Fuyun's soul with a serious look. He found that Huang Fuyun's figure was indeed different from the souls he had absorbed before. First of all, his soul power was much stronger than the soul of the late foundation building period, and his soul was more condensed and not completely transparent. Secondly, even if Huang Fuyun's soul was sucked out of his body, his eyes were still clear. Obviously, he did not fall into a state of confusion. Instead, he was no different from ordinary people. He could still keep all his memories and speak. Wei Hong didn't know that this was because although Huang Fuyun failed to form a pill before, his soul had also grown a lot, so that his soul could remain awake after his death. Facing Wei Hong's ridicule, Huang Fuyun was not angry at all. Instead, he looked at Wei Hong with a look of looking at a dead man, and then sneered, "You don't have to be proud. Although I died in your hands, I believe you will come down to accompany me soon. After you leave the secret realm and return to the fairy city, the ancestor of our Huangfu family will definitely find you through the bloodlight curse. You will definitely not be able to escape. I'm waiting for you to accompany me below." Ho ha ho ha. Huang Fuyun's soul laughed wildly, as if he had seen the scene where Wei Hong was directly torn apart by their Huangfu family's Jinden ancestor. This is both a threat and a fact. Because as long as Wei Hong leaves the secret realm, he will definitely return to Kangshan Fairy City, and the Huangfu family's Jinden ancestor must be waiting for the result in Kangshan Fairy City at this time. At that time, as long as Wei Hong shows up, the Huangfu family's Jinden ancestor will definitely sense the existence of the bloodlight curse. At that time, even if Wei Hong is several times stronger, it is impossible for him to escape from the hands of a Jinden master. Therefore, Huang Fuyun's soul was very sure that Wei Hong would definitely come down to be buried with him. At this moment, Huang Fuyun's soul's eyes were full of the pleasure of revenge. He didn't believe that Wei Hong had any way to escape this disaster. As long as the time for the secret realm to open came, Wei Hong had to leave the secret realm immediately, otherwise, Wei Hong would die tragically in the secret realm without anyone's help. As for being sucked into the 10,000 souls banner, Huang Fuyun's soul did not have any panic. After all, people are already dead and there is no chance of reincarnation. This is no different from the soul flying away. How could he care about what would happen to his soul? However, facing Huang Fuyun's threat, Wei Hong did not have the slightest fear. He just said lightly, "You don't have to bother with this. If you want me to go down to be buried with you, your Huangfu family's ancestor is not qualified." After that, Wei Hong did not say another word of nonsense, but immediately urged his spiritual power to increase the section of the 10,000 souls banner. At the same time, he flicked his sleeves, and a gust of wind blew Huang Fuyun's soul away immediately. The next moment, the suction force in the 10,000 souls banner suddenly increased wildly, sucking Huang Fuyun's soul into the banner, and the aura of the 10,000 souls banner also increased. After seeing Huang Fuyun's soul being completely sucked into the 10,000 souls banner, Wei Hong gently shook it, and the 10,000 souls banner returned to its original size, and then he put it directly into the storage bag. At this time, he looked at the flying knife talisman that was floating in the air because no one was controlling it. Tisk, this Huangfu family is really a boy who brings wealth. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and directly took the talisman. Then he carefully looked at it for a while and found that the spiritual power on this talisman had been consumed a lot. It seems that it can be used 3 more times at most, and it will be completely scrapped after 3 uses. 3 times is also good, and there is one more trump card. Chapter 844 Fatal Threat. Wei Hong was very happy to have a new trump card. For a cultivator like him who had neither a deep background nor any backing, there was no way or method to get a talisman of this level, unless he was willing to spend a large amount of spiritual stones to bid at the auction. All cultivators in the foundation building stage could only use spiritual tools, and only when they became golden elixir cultivators could they control magic tools. In this way, having a talisman was equivalent to having a trump card that could sweep the same level. Unless the opponent also had a talisman, even a cultivator at the peak of the foundation building stage would find it difficult to withstand the attack of the talisman. Wei Hong played with it for a long time before he put the flying knife talisman into his storage bag and carefully put it away. Then he collected Huang Fuyun's storage bag and all the spiritual tools he used, and even Huang Fuyun's body. I got another good material for corpse refining. This is the corpse of a cultivator at the peak of foundation building. If it is made into a corpse, it can definitely fight against a cultivator at the 7th level of foundation building without losing the upper hand. Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction. It can be said that he used Huang Fuyun's soul and body to the extreme. After all, the corpse of a cultivator at the peak of foundation building is very rare. He has never harvested any such corpse before. It must be said that Huang Fuyun did bring him very rich spoils of war. But when Wei Hong thought of what Huang Fuyun's soul had just said, his mood immediately became heavy again. But now is not the time to think about this problem. He needs to leave this place immediately. So Wei Hong immediately cleaned up the battlefield and then flew away on his sword. He flew for hundreds of miles before he found a hidden cave again. After setting up a fantasy sky formation outside, he went directly into the cave. After entering the cave, he simply cleaned it up, took out the golden silk cushion, spread it on the ground and sat down cross-legged directly. It was not until this time that Wei Hong completely relaxed, and then he secretly sighed. I didn't expect that the Huangfu family's secret technique could actually track the location of the enemy. This time I almost got caught. It seems that the blood curse of the Huangfu family should not be underestimated. Wei Hong was actually a little shocked that Huang Fuyun could find his location. He found that he still underestimated the blood curse of the Huangfu family. To be more precise, he knew nothing about this curse, so he was found by Huang Fuyun. Now Huang Fuyun has been killed by him, and there is another layer of blood curse on him. If he waits until the secret realm time ends and returns to the fairy city, he will definitely be targeted by the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family as soon as possible, just as Huang Fuyun said. Such a potential and imminent fatal threat really makes Wei Hong feel like a thorn in his side. What should I do? Wei Hong frowned, his face full of heaviness and uneasiness, and then thought secretly, once I leave the secret realm, I will definitely not be able to escape the induction of the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family, and I might be caught by him on the spot. Although I am an alchemist of Dangwang Pavilion, facing the anger of a giant and master, I am sure that Pavilion Master Bidangma will not provide me with shelter. After all, I have no relationship with the Pavilion Master. In this case, Won't I be doomed if I show up? Wei Hong knew very well that he already had 2 blood curses on him. As long as he returned to the Immortal City, he would definitely not be able to escape the induction of the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family. This is a blood feud, and it is a blood feud that can never be resolved. The 2 giant seeds of the Huangfu family died in his hands, which is equivalent to cutting off the hope of the Huangfu family to have a giant stage cultivator in the future. After all, even for a giant family, cultivating 1 or 2 giant seeds with all their efforts is almost the limit, especially for a giant seed like Huangfu Yun who has reached the peak of foundation building. It has definitely cost countless resources and efforts to cultivate it. Losing 1 is already a serious injury, not to mention that he killed 2. This is definitely a major trauma and loss that is difficult to accept for the entire Huangfu family. Moreover, Wei Hong had heard before that the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family seemed to have a short lifespan, and he was hoping to cultivate another giant and cultivator before his lifespan was almost over, so as to ensure the prosperity and inheritance of the Huangfu family. If the Huangfu family did not have a giant and cultivator after him, the end is absolutely imaginable. It will definitely be eaten up by others, and even the inheritance and bloodline may not be preserved. In this way, the importance of the giant seeds in the family can be imagined. The giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family is definitely hoping that one of his descendants can break through to the giant stage this time, and then support the Huangfu family. Unfortunately, all of this was destroyed by Wei Hong himself. If the giant and patriarch of the Huangfu family knew about this, he would definitely fight Wei Hong to the death without even thinking about it, even if Bidang Mo spoke for him. Thinking of this, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel depressed. No, it's too dangerous. If I return to the Immortal City, I have no way to escape. Wei Hong shook his head, and the more he thought about it, the more dangerous it felt. If I want to survive after returning to the Immortal City, there may be only one way. That is to find the Pavilion Master Bidang Mo as soon as possible and let him protect me. But if I want Bidang Mo to do this, I must pay a huge price, and even expose all my strength. This can only be the worst choice. What's more, even if I pay enough, Bidang Mo may not be willing to provide me with shelter. After all, he is a giant stage cultivator with a short lifespan and may fight at any time. Anyone who changes to him will have to think carefully. Wei Hong thought about it and found that as long as he returned to the Immortal City, it would be difficult to escape the pursuit of the giant and patriarch of the Huangfu family. Even if he was willing to pay enough, he might not be able to impress Bidang Mo. Since I can't go back to the Immortal City anyway, can I stay in the secret realm forever? He thought about it and suddenly thought of another way, that is, hiding in this secret realm for the time being. Since going out would mean death, why should he go out? It would be better to stay in the secret realm and see if he can outlast the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family. As long as he doesn't go out, the other party will definitely not know how the 2 giant seeds of the Huangfu family died. If there is no object of revenge, even the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family can only grit his teeth and swallow this result. And he only needs to stay in the secret realm and wait until the next time the secret realm is opened again before going out, and this crisis can be directly resolved. Even if he can successfully form a pill in this secret realm, all problems will be solved. Yes, I can stay in it. Why must I go out? Can't I stay in the secret realm? When this idea emerged in his mind, it could no longer be lingered. Chapter 845 The Secret Realm is closed. Can I stay in the secret realm forever? After this thought came to Wei Hong's mind, he fell into deep thought. He didn't know much about secret realms, let alone in-depth research, so he didn't know whether normal cultivators could stay in the secret realm forever, but he attached great importance to this idea. For him, this was the only option to solve the crisis. As long as he didn't leave the secret realm, no matter how big the crisis in the outside world was, it had nothing to do with him. The only thing he needed to consider now was whether he could stay in the secret realm smoothly. If he could, he would never leave. The spiritual energy in the secret realm is extremely abundant, much richer than the outside world. If you practice here, you can definitely get twice the result with half the effort. Besides, there are many rare spiritual medicines that are difficult to find in the outside world, and the number is countless. It is simply an excellent place for practice. In this case, can't I also directly form a pill in this secret realm? Thinking of this, Wei Hong's eyes immediately lit up, and then the more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. Great, this is a promising thing. As long as I can successfully form a pill, Then why do I need to be afraid of the Huangfu family? The spiritual energy of heaven and earth here is so abundant, it is definitely a great place to form a pill. Haha, not bad, not bad. This is definitely a matter of killing two birds with one stone. Wei Hong was more and more excited the more he thought about it, and made a decisive choice in his heart. He was not a hesitant person. Since leaving the secret realm would mean death, it would be better to stay in the secret realm directly, and he could also form a pill. Such a good thing, why wouldn't he do it? I'm not in a hurry to go out now, I'd better hide well first. After making the decision, Wei Hong began to think about other problems in his heart. There is less than half a month left before the end of the secret realm. During this period of time, I will retreat well and wait until the secret realm time is over before taking action. Wei Hong had never heard of anyone staying in the secret realm after the secret realm ended, but he felt that if he could enter the secret realm, he would definitely be able to stay. At that time, he would not leave, and he believed that there was a great possibility that he could stay. The only problem that worried him was whether some tricky things would happen after he really stayed. After all, there were definitely not many people who had done such a thing. He himself was making decisions based on speculation, but he didn't dare to guarantee whether it would work or what problems would arise. No matter what, let's decide it this way. Even if there are any problems in the secret realm, it is better than going out and letting others slaughter us. After that, Wei Hong closed his eyes and began to meditate to recover from his injuries. Half a month later, the time for the secret realm to open has come. When the secret realm was reopened, no matter where the cultivators in the secret realm were or what state they were in, a beam of light suddenly emerged and enveloped every cultivator in the beam of light. Wei Hong was also enveloped by a beam of light at this time, and the beam of light began to have a strong suction force. Obviously, this was the secret realm teleporting every cultivator. Feeling the suction and teleportation force from the beam of light, Wei Hong did not respond, but urged his spiritual power to resist with all his strength, causing the teleportation force to become chaotic in an instant. It really works. Wei Hong was delighted and hurriedly continued to urge his spiritual power to resist the teleportation force. Fortunately, as he expected, the teleportation force generated by the secret realm was not irresistible. As long as he resisted, the teleportation force would not teleport him out. As time went on, the teleportation force in the beam of light began to slowly fade and weaken, and the beam of light also slowly became transparent, and finally disappeared into thin air with a buzzing sound, completely disappearing. As for Wei Hong himself, he really stayed in the secret realm. After feeling that the teleportation force completely dissipated, Wei Hong was overjoyed. Haha, it worked. I didn't expect that I could really stay in the secret realm without leaving. My idea was right. He was still a little worried when the secret realm was opened, but when he really stayed, all his worries disappeared, and he really relaxed at this time. Haha, Huangfu old dog, just wait slowly. Your Huangfu family has no successor. After you die, I will settle the accounts between us with your Huangfu family. Wei Hong was very happy in his heart, and at this moment he laughed out loud without any scruples. He believed that there was definitely only one cultivator in this secret realm now. So no matter what he said now, he was not worried that it would be leaked. For a moment, Wei Hong felt that his mind became much clearer. Outside the secret realm, in the hall where more than 1,000 foundation building cultivators gathered at the beginning, hundreds of cultivators slowly emerged one after another. White light flashed, and the surviving monks successfully returned to Kangshan Immortal City. Haha, I'm out, I'm finally out. It's not easy, I'm finally back to the Immortal City. Yes, this trip is really a life and death struggle, but finally I'm safe. Alice, the time is still too short. Give me a little more time and I can pick that second-level top-quality spiritual herb. As hundreds of monks successfully returned to the hall, various complex voices also rang out. Many monks immediately expressed various feelings, or immediately discussed with the monks around them. As the saying goes, some are happy and some are sad. From those discussions, it can be heard that many monks did not gain much, but encountered many unimaginable dangers, and even witnessed the process of many monks dying. So for being able to return to the Immortal City safely, these monks are extremely happy. In addition, some monks have gained rich gains, and even complained that the time for the secret realm to open is too short. It would be better if it could be extended a little longer, so that they can gain more things. At the same time, The monks who returned to the Immortal City have also discovered that only about half of the monks were able to successfully return to the Immortal City this time. The fate of the remaining monks who did not appear is self-evident. Alice, a trip to the secret realm has buried hundreds of foundation-building monks. It's really terrifying. Yes, who would have thought that there would be so many terrifying monsters in the secret realm, and those terrible dangerous areas. It's a fluke that I can come back safely this time. It turns out that not everyone can participate in the secret realm. That's right, you didn't see the melee deep in the inner domain of the secret realm. It was so terrible. If you are not careful, you may die on the spot. Waves of discussions filled the entire hall, and many monks still had a trace of palpitations and fear on their faces. Chapter 846, The Golden Core Ancestor. Dingzhu and her fellow senior sisters returned to the main hall at the same time. As soon as she returned to the Immortal City, Dingzhu immediately looked around, her pretty face full of confusion and anxiety, obviously looking for Wei Hong. From entering the secret realm to returning to the Immortal City, she had never met Wei Hong once, which inevitably gave Dingzhu a bad premonition, so she wanted to find Wei Hong as soon as she returned to the Immortal City. But the result made her very disappointed. She carefully observed a circle, but still could not find Wei Hong's figure. This was the result after she repeatedly confirmed. For a while, Dingzhu stood there for a long time with regret and guilt on her face. Junior sister, what's wrong? But that fellow Taoist Wei hasn't come out. After seeing this situation, the fifth senior sister Su Ning next to her immediately asked with concern. Dingzhu nodded absent-mindedly and said, "It should be. I didn't see him appear, and I don't know what accident happened. In fact, everyone knows that those who have not left the secret realm now actually represent death, especially in the cognition of many cultivators. This is absolutely no exception." Dingzhu naturally understood this, so she regretted it very much. She was deeply remorseful at this moment. She subconsciously thought that it was because she invited Wei Hong to go to the secret realm together, so such an accident and result occurred, causing Wei Hong to be buried in the secret realm. If she hadn't invited Wei Hong might still be staying in the fairy city at this moment. What's more, Wei Hong was Dingzhu's only good friend, and the two had helped each other a lot. Now that Wei Hong died in the secret realm because of her, Dingzhu couldn't help but feel all kinds of guilt and regret in her heart. Su Ning obviously knew the answer, so she sighed, and then whispered to comfort, "Junior sister, don't be sad. Our generation of cultivators is against the will of heaven, and life and death are sometimes not up to us. Since fellow Taoist Wei is not blessed, it's not my fault. Junior sister, don't feel guilty." As a woman, Su Ning naturally understood Dingzhu's thoughts and feelings. Seeing this situation, other people around also spoke to comfort her. And they all sighed. They didn't expect that Wei Hong, a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building, could not get out of the secret realm, which was really unexpected. However, at this moment, a powerful divine sense suddenly covered the entire hall. Who dared to kill our Huangfu family? Who did it? A voice full of rage and murderous aura also resounded throughout the hall, and all the foundation building cultivators present changed their faces instantly. Because they all felt that there was an extremely strong malice shrouding them. Although it was not directed at them personally, it was enough to terrify the cultivators present. It was clearly from the divine sense and breath of the giant cultivator. If Wei Hong did not stay in the secret realm at this moment, but chose to return to the Immortal City like Dingzhu and the others, then he would definitely be greeted by the wrath of the Huangfu family's giant ancestor, and he would definitely have no chance of escaping. After hearing the words of that voice, many cultivators present were also shocked. What? Someone from the Huangfu family was killed? Who did it? This is the giant ancestor of the Huangfu family. Who provoked him? What's the situation? Who was killed? Huangfu Yun or Huangfu Ming? Who has such strength to kill someone from the Huangfu family? The cultivators in the hall immediately whispered and discussed, obviously very curious about this matter. And that giant in divine consciousness was unscrupulously scanning back and forth in the entire hall, as if looking for someone. For a moment, under the scanning of that powerful divine consciousness, all the cultivators in the hall were silent, not daring to say a word, for fear of being targeted by the giant ancestor of the Huangfu family. They didn't want to bear the wrath of a giant ancestor, let alone suffer an unprovoked disaster. However, those cultivators were also secretly guessing in their hearts at this time, who was so bold as to dare to kill someone from the Huangfu family, especially since Huang Fuming and Huang Fuyun were at least in the late stage of foundation building. Who could kill these two people and have such strength? For a while, the cultivators in the whole hall, although they dared not speak, were quietly looking around and observing, especially those cultivators above the late stage of foundation building, who became the focus of many cultivators' observation. In particular, a small number of cultivators who had reached the peak of foundation building turned pale, fearing that they would be misunderstood. Moreover, many cultivators in the hall had already discovered that the Huangfu family had entered 3 people before, but now, except for Huangfu Heng, who was in the late stage of foundation building, the other 2 Huangfu Ming and Huangfu Yun were gone. Doesn't this mean that the Huangfu family has lost 2 golden elixir seeds at once? Thinking of this, many cultivators who were already dissatisfied with the Huangfu family were overjoyed in their hearts. If it weren't for the Huangfu family's golden elixir ancestor who was here, they might have laughed out loud. The divine consciousness that enveloped the hall had carefully scanned several times, but had not found anyone with a blood curse. After discovering this situation, the divine consciousness seemed to be unable to accept this result and was about to go crazy. All the cultivators felt a fatal palpitation shrouding them, as if they were about to bear an unimaginable horror. But at this time, there seemed to be a gentle breeze blowing gently through the hall, and at the same time, a light cough sounded. Cough, Huangfu Daoyao, since you have seen and have not found the culprit, it proves that the cultivator who killed your Huangfu family is not here, or has fallen in the secret realm. Then stop it, and it will be too much if you continue to be so presumptuous. As the breeze blew, all the cultivators in the hall instantly felt relaxed, and all the threats and heaviness that enveloped their hearts had completely dissipated, making all the cultivators couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The giant ancestor of the Huangfu family said angrily, "Stop? 2 giant seeds of our Huangfu family were killed innocently, and now we can't even find the murderer, but you ask me to stop. So what?" The gentle voice did not fluctuate at all, and still said lightly, "It is an exception to let you search recklessly once. If you continue to pester me, don't blame me for being rude." As soon as these words came out, the air seemed to stagnate. No one dared to breathe, as if an invisible heavy pressure was once again shrouding them. However, this heavy pressure did not make the cultivators present feel any threat, as if it was aimed at the ancestor of the Huangfu family. After hearing this, the giant ancestor of the Huangfu family was like being strangled by the neck, and he didn't dare to say anything more, not even a cruel word. Humph! He only left an angry snort, and then left completely. Chapter 847 Secret Realm Suppression. Xingyan's Secret Realm. Wei Hong, who was in the cave, didn't know that because of his killing of Huang Fuyun and Huang Fuming, he actually caused a great shock in the Immortal City, and countless cultivators were wondering who was so powerful and so bold. The fact was just as he expected. The giant patriarch of the Huangfu family failed to find the murderer. Even if he was furious, he had nowhere to vent and could only leave in anger. And because he didn't leave the secret realm, he successfully escaped this disaster. But now Wei Hong didn't know this. His mind was all attracted by the sudden appearance of a repressive force. That powerful repressive force appeared immediately after the transmission force dissipated. It was an invisible heavy force that directly enveloped him, suppressing every part of his skin from head to toe. Sure enough, there is definitely a price to pay if you want to stay in the secret realm. Wei Hong knew very well that the appearance of this repressive force meant that the secret realm was resisting him and rejecting him, and wanted to drive him out of the secret realm. If it's just a slight suppression, it won't have much impact on me, but I always feel that this suppression is not that simple, and the repulsion of the secret realm must be more than just this degree. Wei Hong frowned and began to carefully experience the impact of the suppression. He found that under the cover of the suppression, his strength was greatly affected. Not only was the spiritual power running slower than before, but his aura was also weakened, as if his strength was suppressed by at least 10% in all directions. Only suppressed by 10% of strength? The suppression and repulsion of the secret realm were within his expectations. However, under the influence of the suppression, his strength was only reduced by 10%, which was somewhat beyond his expectations. If that was the case, the impact on him would be almost zero. However, after a moment, Wei Hong's face was slightly condensed and he said in a deep voice, "No, something is wrong. Is this suppression still slowly increasing?" He found that the suppression formed by the secret realm was still slowly increasing, but the change was very subtle, and it was impossible to detect it without careful sensing. He also experienced it carefully for a long time before discovering it. This discovery immediately made Wei Hong's heart sink. If this repressive force continued to increase infinitely, wouldn't his strength be weakened to the point where even ordinary monsters could not resist? Thinking of this, Wei Hong's face became heavy. He could accept a slight reduction in strength, but if his own strength was reduced to the limit, or even became an ordinary person, that was something he absolutely could not accept, and he had to find a way to prevent the situation from changing in that direction. So Wei Hong continued to sit cross-legged on the futon, and began to carefully sense the more influence of the repressive force of the secret realm on him. He was not in a hurry to go out. At this time, he was the only cultivator in the entire secret realm. No matter whether it was the natural treasures or other things in the secret realm, no one would compete with him, not to mention that the next time the secret realm was opened was 60 years later. During these 60 years, he had plenty of time to explore every corner of the secret realm, so there was no need to rush at this time. The most urgent problem for him to solve was the secret realm's rejection of him. As long as the influence of the repressive force could be reduced to a level he could accept, he could practice and explore with peace of mind. Otherwise, his stay in the secret realm would be meaningless. 6 hours later, Wei Hong opened his eyes with a serious face, then frowned and murmured, "I didn't expect that the price to stay in the secret realm would be so great. Not only will my strength be reduced a lot, but even my lifespan will be reduced continuously. No wonder I've never heard of anyone staying in the secret realm and being able to get out again." After carefully sensing it for 6 hours, Wei Hong finally found the key. He found that the suppression force formed by the secret realm not only reduced his strength, but also continuously reduced his lifespan. If it were other cultivators, they would naturally not be able to find the latter problem, but Wei Hong had an attribute panel. He accidentally checked that his lifespan had been reduced by about 1 month and 6 hours, which means that if he spent 1 day in the secret realm, his lifespan would be reduced by at least 2 months. 6 days will reduce 1 year of lifespan, and 1 year will reduce at least 60 years of lifespan. If it were other cultivators, they would all die in a few years. Wei Hong sighed, and he understood the real danger of staying in this secret realm. Except for the time when the secret realm is opened, anyone who stays here for 1 year is equivalent to several decades in the outside world. This should be a unique feature of the secret realm, which is equivalent to the power of the law of heaven, and cultivators cannot resist it at all. If it were other cultivators, they would completely reduce all their lifespan after staying here for a few years, and then die directly, no matter how high their cultivation is. It is precisely because of this that even though this Xingqian secret realm has been opened countless times, no one dares to stay in the secret realm, and they all leave in a hurry when the time is up. This also made Wei Hong understand why there are so many natural treasures in the secret realm for people to pick. It is clear that they use this feature of the secret realm to accelerate the growth of those natural treasures, so that when the secret realm is opened next time, countless mature spiritual medicines and natural treasures will appear again. However, after discovering this, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief. Huh? The solemnity on his face disappeared, and he chuckled, "Haha, I didn't expect that the real threat would be to reduce my lifespan. Fortunately, I am not afraid of this. If it were any other problem, he might not be unaffected." But the reduction of lifespan was acceptable to Wei Hong, because he had vitality points to restore his lifespan. For other cultivators, it was a fatal and irresistible threat, but it had almost no effect on him. Fortunately, the vitality points I stored before were not used carelessly. This time, they finally came in handy. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart finally settled down. After entering the secret realm, he killed many monsters and cultivators, and accumulated tens of thousands of vitality points. Except for some of them used to recover from injuries during the previous battle with Huang Fuyun, the rest were not used at all. In this way, the tens of thousands of vitality points can be used. He can consume some vitality points every once in a while to replenish his lifespan, and will not be affected at all. Haha, good, the threat hanging over my head is finally resolved. Now I can practice with peace of mind and explore the entire secret realm by the way. Wei Hong laughed happily, feeling extremely excited that he had the entire secret realm to himself. Chapter 848, Gold of Flame Essence. After solving the biggest problem, Wei Hong felt relieved. So, he began to plan some things for his next stay in the secret realm. First of all, I can't fall behind in cultivation. I must improve my cultivation to the peak of foundation building as soon as possible, and then consider the matter of forming a pill. The second is to explore the secret realm. There is no need to rush for this matter. Maybe it is best to wait until the pill is formed. In the meantime, you can also explore the surrounding area first. In addition to cultivation, whether it is refining pills and drawing talismans or refining corpses and raising corpses, these cannot be put aside. They all need to be developed in parallel. Also, about how to form a pill and the preparations for forming a pill, this is a big problem. I don't have any information and materials about forming a pill at hand. If I am not fully prepared, I can't rashly form a pill. One thing after another began to flash through Wei Hong's mind, making him feel a little urgent. Because he had a lot of things to do, especially the matter of forming a pill made him quite worried. The main reason was that he had been practicing alone all along, with no senior master or power background, so no one could guide his practice. He had to rely on his own exploration and hard work all the way. It was easy to say that the realm before the Jinden stage, the information on foundation building and so on could be found, but the information and data on the formation of the elixir was simply impossible to collect on the market. It was something that every Jinden family or every sect power attached great importance to. If they were not blood relatives or from the same master, it would be impossible to teach them. Of course, there were also some Jinden cultivators who would record their own formation process and experience, and then pass it on to their disciples or direct bloodline for their reference in advance. Now Wei Hong could only hope that there might be notes about the formation of the elixir in the storage bags he collected. Thinking of this, he immediately took out more than a dozen storage bags from his arms and placed them in front of him. These storage bags were all collected from the cultivators he killed. Wei Hong couldn't remember how many people he had killed after entering the secret realm. He only knew that the spoils were definitely very rich, but he needed to check slowly what he had gained. The first thing he picked up was the blue storage bag that belonged to Huang Fuming. The reason why Wei Hong remembered it so clearly was not only because the color of this storage bag was special, but also because he had a very deep impression of Huang Fuming. You know, the blood curse was brought to him by Huang Fuming. Wei Hong's expectations for this storage bag were not small. You know, Huang Fuming is the golden elixir seed of the Huangfu family, and the direct bloodline of the golden elixir ancestor. Not only is he powerful, but he also has very good spiritual tools. He must have received a lot of favor from the golden elixir ancestor of the Huangfu family. Wei Hong gently opened the mouth of the storage bag, and then probed his consciousness directly into it. As soon as his consciousness entered the storage bag, he saw that it was full of things. The first thing that caught his eyes was a pile of medium-grade spiritual stones, with a total number of more than 10,000. Wei Hong also saw 3 smaller ones next to him, but the spiritual energy contained in them was at least 10 times that of medium-grade spiritual stones. Top-grade spiritual stones. Wei Hong was overjoyed. He didn't expect Huang Fuming to be so rich. You should know that top-grade spiritual stones are only used by cultivators above the Jinden stage, because the spiritual energy contained in top-grade spiritual stones is at least 10 times that of medium-grade spiritual stones. Therefore, they are suitable for Jinden cultivators to use for cultivation or to restore spiritual power. After all, using medium-grade spiritual stones to restore spiritual power is too inefficient. In terms of value, one top-grade spiritual stone is at least worth 100 medium-grade spiritual stones, but this is only the default exchange ratio. In fact, no one would choose to exchange even if it was 1 to 120. After all, top-grade spiritual stones are very rare. Regardless of the value of these 3 top-grade spiritual stones, at least they are definitely of great use to Wei Hong. Because he would definitely need a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy when he formed the elixir. Although the spiritual energy in this secret realm was abundant and rich, it might not be able to meet the needs of forming the elixir. If he used a few high-grade spiritual stones at the critical moment, the effect might be better. Overjoyed, Wei Hong directly transferred the 3 high-grade spiritual stones and the more than 10,000 medium-grade spiritual stones into his storage bag. Then he continued to check. In addition to the pile of spiritual stones, there was a large pile of sundries in the storage bag, including some personal daily necessities, such as clothes and accessories, and some miscellaneous items. All these things were thrown aside by Wei Hong, ready to be cleaned up later. In addition, there were not many things left, including 6 spiritual tools, more than 10 kinds of spiritual flowers and herbs, and 3 jade boxes. Among the 6 spiritual tools, there were 2 second-level top-grade spiritual tools, namely the White Bone 9-section whip and the Hunun Golden Seal, both of which Huang Fuming had used before, and they were used to deal with Wei Hong. Especially the Hunun Golden Seal, which is 2 points more powerful than the ordinary second-grade top-grade spiritual weapon. It is clearly a treasure passed down by the Huangfu family and used by Huang Fuming for self-defense, but it did not expect to fall into Wei Hong's hands. Haha, not bad. These 2 spiritual weapons are still very useful even if they are used in the Jinden stage, especially before they have magic weapons. The second-grade top-grade spiritual weapons are still the main weapons. Wei Hong was full of joy and directly put the 2 second-grade top-grade spiritual weapons into his storage bag. These second-grade top-grade spiritual weapons still need him to perform a simple ritual before they can be better driven, so naturally he put them away first. In addition to the White Bone 9-section whip and the Hunun Golden Seal, the rest are ordinary second-grade top-grade spiritual weapons, which are no longer in Wei Hong's eyes, so he put them directly into another storage bag. As for the more than 10 kinds of spiritual flowers and herbs, they have reached the second-grade top grade, but they are not very rare, so he just took a look and put them away. In addition to those things, there are only 3 jade boxes that have not been opened. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and flicked it, and 3 jade boxes were taken out of the storage bag and placed in front of him. He picked up the first jade box and opened it directly, and saw that it contained a fist-sized golden ore. Is this flame essence gold? Wei Hong carefully identified it for a while before saying it in surprise. If he hadn't been able to refine weapons and had read many classics that recorded a lot of ore information, he might not have recognized the origin of this ore and might have treated it as an ordinary ore. After recognizing the origin of this ore, an excited look instantly appeared on his face. No mistake, this piece is definitely flame essence gold. Wei Hong's tone was very firm, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. He didn't expect that Huang Fuming would have such a precious ore on him, which was really beyond his expectations. Just because this flame essence gold is a piece of ore that has reached the 3rd level. Chapter 849 Blood Dragon Black Axe. Could it be that this piece of flame essence gold is what Huang Fuming is going to give to his ancestor? Looking at the piece of 3rd-grade medium quality ore in his hand, Wei Hong couldn't help but guess. In fact, his guess was correct. This piece of 3rd-grade medium-quality flame essence gold was indeed what Huang Fuming had searched for a long time and spent a great deal of money to get. It was originally intended to be presented to the ancestor of his family, in order to make the ancestor happy and gain greater benefits. Unexpectedly, this piece of ore actually fell directly into Wei Hong's hands. Wei Hong knew very well that this piece of flame essence gold was a good thing for refining fire attribute magic weapons, but it was a pity that it was not suitable for him. At the same time, he had not reached the golden core stage, so this piece of ore was not of much use to him at present, and could only be traded out later. So he quickly put away the flame essence gold and opened the second jade box at the same time. After the jade box was opened, a pure white ice crystal flower appeared in front of him. Mysterious ice flower. Wei Hong's face was lifted, and then he showed a look of joy. This Zuanbing flower is another kind of natural treasure that helps to form a pill, and it is also a good thing that he has not obtained before. Now that he has obtained this Zuanbing flower, it means that his chances of forming a pill can be improved. Haha, not bad, not bad. It is of excellent quality and full of spiritual charm. It is worthy of being a natural treasure bred in the secret realm. Wei Hong looked at it carefully and put it away with a wave of his hand. When he opened the last jade box, a white jade slip came into view. Jade slip. Wei Hong was a little confused, but he was quite interested in the contents of the jade slip. Something that could be collected so solemnly by Huang Fuming must not be an ordinary thing. He reached out and picked up the jade slip, and then gently placed it between his eyebrows. His spiritual consciousness extended directly into it and began to check the contents of the jade slip. After only looking at it for a while, Wei Hong's brows wrinkled slightly, but he did not open his eyes immediately, but continued to check patiently. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes and put down the jade slip. The ultimate 1-level Hunun Yikiju. Wei Hong frowned slightly and could not help but whisper the name of the technique recorded in the jade slip. This is a technique that has reached the ultimate 1 level, and it seems to be the ancestral technique of the Huangfu family. The grade of this Hunun Yikiju is not low, and Wei Hong simply checked it. The content recorded in the jade slip can only be cultivated to the early stage of the golden elixir, and the rest is not recorded. Obviously, this should be the main technique prepared by the Huangfu family for Huangfu Ming. As long as Huangfu Ming forms the elixir, the rest of the technique content can be taught. Wei Hong himself is not very interested in this technique, because he himself cannot switch to other techniques at this stage. However, this Hunan Yikiju records the content of the technique of the early stage of the golden elixir. Although there is no experience about forming the elixir, it is enough for him to refer to it, and it is also of great value. So Wei Hong solemnly put the jade slip back into the box and put it away carefully. Apart from these things, there was nothing else valuable in Huangfu Ming's storage bag. Wei Hong took out another storage bag and put all the miscellaneous items into it. He thought about it, and then picked out a black storage bag from the pile of storage bags. This belonged to Huangfu Yun, and Wei Hong was quite looking forward to the things inside. To be honest, Huangfu Ming's storage bag brought him a lot of surprises and gains, whether it was the 3 top-grade spirit stones, or the 3rd-level middle-grade flame essence gold, or the black ice flower, all made Wei Hong quite satisfied. Now he wanted to know whether Huangfu Yun, who was also a direct descendant of the Huangfu family, would have a richer fortune than Huangfu Ming. Wei Hong gently opened the mouth of the black storage bag, and his spiritual sense went directly into it. After just one look, his brows immediately frowned. The expected rich spoils did not appear, and the storage bag seemed a little empty compared to the previous one. There weren't many sundries in it, but there were quite a few spirit stones. Wei Hong easily came up with a result after a scan with his spiritual sense. There were about 20,000 medium-grade spirit stones in total. However, when he saw that there were 5 high-grade spirit stones next to the pile of medium-grade spirit stones, his face suddenly became happy. Haha, not bad, not bad, there are actually 5 high-grade spirit stones, this is a pleasant surprise. Together with the 3 pieces he got from Huangfu Ming, Wei Hong suddenly had 8 high-grade spirit stones. In this way, he would no longer have to worry about the problem of insufficient spiritual energy when he formed the elixir in the future. So he immediately put away all the spirit stones, and the 8 high-grade spirit stones were also collected separately. In addition to the spirit stones, there were not many things left in this black storage bag. There were more than 20 pieces in total. It seemed that there were a lot of them, but in fact, several of them were duplicates. The first was as many as 7 or 8 jade bottles, which should all contain elixirs. Wei Hong took out the jade bottles one by one and placed them in front of him, then picked up the jade bottles and began to check them one by one. Golden Marrow Pill. Ki Boosting Pill. Tenglong Pill. Wei Hong carefully checked the 7 or 8 jade bottles and found that they were filled with 2nd grade upper grade and 2nd grade extreme grade pills. Some of them were used to improve cultivation, while others were used to replenish spiritual energy and heal injuries. These pills were a timely rain for him, just enough to replenish his daily cultivation needs. Originally, he also had a lot of pills on him, but he would never think that there were too few pills. Now that he has not yet cultivated to the peak of foundation building, he really needs a lot of pills. In addition to the 7 or 8 jade bottles, there are also 4 or 5 spiritual tools. The talisman and the white-blue sky-breaking bow that Huangfu Yun originally used had long been put away by Wei Hong. Now, except for a 2nd grade extreme grade black axe in this storage bag, the remaining few are only 2nd grade upper grade spiritual tools, which are no longer in Wei Hong's eyes. Is this the Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe? The left side of the axe face of this axe-type spiritual tool is engraved with 5 tiny characters, Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe. This is a rare axe spiritual weapon. There is a faint blood-colored dragon on both sides of the axe. The dragon's tail corresponds to the end of the axe handle. The axe blade is shining with cold light, which looks very sharp. Wei Hong was a little surprised. He had never seen Huangfu Yun use this Blood Dragon Black Axe before. He didn't know whether it was because he had the talisman in his hand or the Bai Kangpo Yuan bow was more useful, so he didn't use this Blood Dragon Black Axe. But he didn't expect that it would be cheap now. Haha, the axe spiritual weapon is powerful and heavy, it's a good thing for attacking. Wei Hong put it away without hesitation. At this time, he had 4 2nd-level top-grade spiritual weapons as trophies in his hands. This was just checking 2 storage bags. I don't know if there are bigger gains in the remaining storage bags. Chapter 850, Danji Notes. After putting away the Blood Dragon Black Axe, Wei Hong looked at the remaining items. The jade talisman that Huang Fuyun had used before had long been consumed, and there was nothing left. The remaining items did not have anything that made Wei Hong's eyes light up. There were only 2 or 3 kinds of spiritual flowers and herbs, and 2 notebooks. He didn't know what was recorded in them. He put away all the other things and only kept the 2 notebooks in his hands. Let's see what it is first, Wei Hong said to himself, and then directly opened one of the notebooks. After just a while, he said with joy on his face, "Jiren notes? Haha, it's really easy to get it." The 2 notebooks recorded some experiences and precautions about Jiren, which happened to be what Wei Hong urgently needed. I didn't expect that Huang Fuyun would have a Jiren notes. Could he want a Jiren in this secret realm? Wei Hong was delighted, but he couldn't help but guess secretly. In fact, as he guessed, Huang Fuyun came to the secret realm this time to Jiren. After all, the spiritual energy in the secret realm is much richer than that in the outside world, and it is also safer. It is definitely a very suitable place for Dan formation, so Huang Fuyun participated in this trip to the secret realm without thinking. Unexpectedly, he not only failed to form a den, but also failed to save his life. He stayed in this secret realm forever and could not leave. The 2 dam formation notes that Huang Fuyun carried with him were prepared for him by the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family. Now it has once again benefited Wei Hong, just solving his urgent needs. Put it away first, and read it carefully later. Wei Hong put the 2 notes away with his backhand. After all, now is not the time to check it carefully. He was also a little confused at this time. He didn't expect that Huang Fuyun's wealth was not as deep as Huang Fuming's. Except for a talisman and 2 second-level top-grade spiritual tools, other things were not that valuable. In fact, this was all because Huang Fuyun wanted to form a den, which exhausted most of his wealth. Although the Huangfu family also prepared a lot of things for him, it was impossible for Huang Fuyun himself to prepare nothing. In order to have a greater chance of forming a pill, he spent most of his wealth to buy a lot of resources and treasures, just for this gamble. Therefore, he did not leave too many things. Unfortunately, Huang Fuyun still failed to form a pill in the end, otherwise it would not be Huang Fuyun who was buried in the secret realm today, but Wei Hong. Wei Hong was too lazy to think too much. After putting away the notes, he looked at the pile of storage bags again. He had killed many cultivators along the way after entering the secret realm. Among them, the 2 cultivators of the Huangfu family impressed him the most. The rest were some cultivators in the middle and late stages of foundation building. They were not very strong and had no strong background, so they were not remembered by him. Moreover, among this pile of storage bags, there were also some that he had touched when the big melee in the inner domain was in troubled waters. So he didn't know what was in these storage bags, and he was full of expectations. So Wei Hong did not specifically check any storage bag first, but looked through them one by one in order. There are not many opportunities to check the spoils in such a large batch, and Wei Hong was immersed in it. More than 2 hours later. It took more than 2 hours for Wei Hong to roughly count and sort out all the spoils. The main reason was that there were too many sundries, which took up a lot of his energy. Wei Hong found that except for the storage bags of Huang Fuyun and Huang Fuming, there were very few things in the remaining storage bags that could surprise him or brighten his eyes. The things in those storage bags were also different, and they were varied. The first was the spirit stones. There were tens of thousands of medium-grade spirit stones, and as few as 1 or 2,000. After all, the foundation building cultivators who could enter the secret realm were definitely not those poor casual cultivators. Generally speaking, their wealth was still decent. The second is the spiritual flowers and herbs and other natural treasures. In addition to those collected after entering the secret realm, most of them were purchased by the owners of those storage bags before. They are mainly second-level medium-grade and second-level high-grade spiritual flowers and herbs, with a total of 200 or 300 plants, while there are no second-level top-grade natural treasures. In addition, there are various materials. Those storage bags contain various materials for drawing talismans, refining instruments and setting up formations, from talisman skins to ores, to spiritual ink, wood and charcoal fire, etc., which can be said to have everything. After all, each cultivator is good at different skills, or has different needs for the direction and resources of cultivation, so the materials and resources they carry are naturally very different. There are also spiritual tools. In the remaining storage bags, there are at least 30 or 40 spiritual tools in total, But there is only one second-level top-grade spiritual tool, which is a rare spiritual tool called Jiangain Zuanhu. Other than that, they are all second-level medium-grade and high-grade spiritual tools, which Wei Hong has long ignored and put all of them together. Finally, there were consumables such as elixirs and talismans. He had harvested more than 40 bottles of elixirs in total. Most of these elixirs were of the second-level middle and upper grades, and most of them were used to improve cultivation, while a small part was used to replenish spiritual power or heal injuries. As for the talismans, they were a bit complicated. There were a lot of second-level middle and upper-grade talismans, both offensive and defensive, and there were also many special types of talismans, which dazzled Wei Hong. The total number of these things was not small at all. The spoils he obtained this time were extremely rich. Of course, Wei Hong did not carefully examine the secret techniques, some notes and classics, etc., but first gathered them together and carefully put them away, preparing to examine them carefully later when he had time. Killing people and setting fires, the golden belt. If you want to get rich, it is still faster to rely on robbing. When Wei Hong thought of the things in his storage bag, he couldn't help but sigh. All the spoils were sorted and collected by him, and he even made several storage bags for this purpose. As for those worthless sundries, he put them all into another storage bag and buried them in the cave, and he was too lazy to deal with them. Then there were the storage bags with special marks of Huang Fuyun and others, all of which were dealt with by him one by one, without any intention of keeping them, so as not to expose his tracks in the future. With these things to supplement, it won't have much impact even if I stay in the secret realm for decades. Wei Hong felt lighthearted and relaxed at the same time. He had harvested so many materials and resources, as well as a large number of elixirs, which were enough to guarantee his cultivation and future life, and he didn't need to worry about anything. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's mind became completely active. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.